way where it's like the Art of War is not like the clear favorite and all that kind of shit now. But
Yeah.
with what they've done to Holy Hawk, Holy Shock is basically like with the reduced cooldown to 6 seconds and then the 50% increased damage buff, you're looking at like a 750% increase in terms of DPS. Like that's how much that rune is worth it. And even in my build, it like usually like Sheath of Light was beating out the Holy Shock rune
Right.
beforehand, but
And what
now it's
makes
the
it
Holy Shock is just better.
it would all be fine if the plus 50%. By the way, I started recording, but we'll get there. I'll do the intro in a second. Let's just cover this, okay? Uh, it would all be fine if the math on the plus 50% bonus damage from whatever the hell the rune is, I forget its name, Infusion of Light or whatever, um,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
did not affect the spell power ratio. So if it was still like 41-ish percent spell power ratio, she wouldn't be that terrifying. But because she's plus 50% and that 50% is affecting the spell power ratio, she's actually like a 60%, 63% spell power ratio, which is just like, Jesus fucking. She's scaling super hard.
So like the
Yeah, and then on
numbers are kind of
crits.
off for it then. It sounds like.
It's not
So
No,
that.
no,
It's
the numbers
just
aren't
that.
off. The numbers are perfectly where they should be, lads. Let's not go after
oh no,
shotguns.
I
They're
mean no,
perfectly
no,
where they need
true.
to be.
No, much love to him for sure.
Mm. All right. So let me do the intro. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So we're doing a PallyCast here. We got Tello. We got Tareyak. Of course, we got me. Master plan here. We're going to try to stick to it. As I'll cover the PvP stuff as best as we can. We got Tareyak to cover the PvE tanking paladin. I'm very interested in hearing what he has to say. And Tello can actually hopefully cover the PV, just the paladin community stuff in general, because he actually looks at the posts and the forums and whatnot. And I have a bunch of things to ask him in general. But what we were talking about initially was how Holy Shock is a bit of an elephant in the room in both PvE and PvP. Tareyak, is Holy Shock so good that she's actually a viable DPS spec? Qua?
Yeah, like at least in terms of like my personal experience, anyway. Like even with the speed runs that we do, usually like when I'm like off tank and all this shit, it's like I don't really have to change much. And like I have to kind of be wary of if I over aggro like wire tanks and all this stuff. We're like I have the best rogue tank. Like basically his name's Dnep or something like that. He's like literally number one for Sunken Temple in the world for
All
rogue
right.
tanking. So like he's the only one like that like I can trust that can go full whack and he'll still be able to hold aggro. But in terms of the DPS, like I'm usually mid the table, like with actual the proper DPS and all the shit, like doing 1.2k DPS currently. With these new buffs, the Holy Shock and all that, it's pretty much going to be the same thing. But like that's what I like about the Shockedon kind of like tank role is that like you're kind of like a pseudo DPS. It's like the Fury Pro answer for warriors, where it's like you're kind of like a pseudo DPS, but you're also a tank. Now you can do tricks to get the armor cap and all that, so you shouldn't worry about tanking bosses. But your whole kind of like general kind of like toolkit, because it's all holy threat and all the stuff. I think it's like 2.3 multiplier in season discovery. Your threat is just insane. And because you're a mana user, you're not reliant on rage or energy ticks and all that kind of stuff. You can just blow your whole fucking mana bar, get hit very hard as well, and then you're getting all your mana back and all that kind of shit as well.
Okay.
So,
Before we go too deep into the trees, let's look at it like from a 40,000 foot level. The two tanking paladins on the menu is Holy Shock and Holy Shield, nothing else, right?
uh, pretty much yeah. Because just kind of give everyone like a brief kind of like thing on classic sod
Oh shit,
on
he's got
like
stuff to say.
classic
All right, go
vanilla.
for it.
Yeah, on classic vanilla, yeah, there was like, and you kind of seen this with like the two-handed Rex spec, that was kind of like in earlier phases. There was a guy called, oh my god, I forgot his fucking name.
Yeah, I know.
No
Yeah,
way.
we talked about him a lot in the
The,
other Pallycast.
yeah, fuck, I forgot his name. Oh my god, that's gonna kill me. But yeah, basically there was this other paladin that was also got banned from the Discord with me and around the same time because we were like, nah, don't go for defense cap, don't go for mitigation cap, just go for armor cap. Because the improved lay on hands and all that stuff, which you don't even need to spec into. You can get a holy paladin just to blow it on you. Especially when you're talking about speed runs, everyone's going to be less than half an hour anyway, so all you need is like one or two. In
Oh,
terms of
forgot
those
about
bosses there,
that.
do you know what I mean?
There's the I forgot. There's the whole top tier meta, and then there's the average Joe meta. All right, continue.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh
So
boy.
like in terms of like in terms of like his whole thing is like he was like had the balls enough to like whip out the two-hander, charge up some reckoning stack. So he'd basically go 25 and then put the rest into re. And you kind of build off this whole kind of like world buff stacking, and you're getting all this agility buffs and all that kind of shit. And he was like basically kind of like 40
So
or
he's
50%
like,
crit.
so he'd be 0, 25, 26 ish. Okay.
Yes, something along those lines kind of thing. But it was all about that kind of single target threat and all that stuff. Now that's basically died off because even when you see like rogues and warriors now and all stuff, they have all their AoE threats. So and we see with all the reworks to deep prot as well, which I'm happy about because now there's an actual excuse to get Holy Shield. That you're starting to see that like if you're going to go with attack power or strength or kind of crit down that line, you're better off going down the deep prot route because of the buffs that Holy Shield have, as well as the additional attack power you're
Well,
now
they've
granting
been
with that as
flooding,
well.
at least in Sunken Temple, and I imagine going forward, they've been flooding the game with block value gear.
Yep.
And Shield Slam and Holy Shield are basically like going Super Saiyan off that shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like to talk about that kind of like the deep prop build. It's basically like you're not getting punished for going into the block rating, because block rating in itself, single target, typically is not that great
Correct.
because you only have one target attacking you, and it's in terms of the overall damage. If it's a 1k damage, like you need like at least 400 block rating just to block 40% of that damage. Whereas typically, if you look at like armor rating, like it's just a way better stat to invest in. But now that you have things like Shield of the Righteous, Holy Shield, all this kind of stuff, kind of synergizing together now, you're not getting punished for being gearing so heavily into block rating.
And so everyone's clear, we are definitely talking about Holy Shield with like the 6-set bonus. Like we're not remotely talking about it having 4 fucking charges.
Yeah. So like, and that's another thing as well. Like that makes it so much better for AOE too. Now, like that being said, like even in my build, like I'd have like block rating gear that I'd throw on if I'm doing the because I usually off tank anyway. So it's like even as a Shockedin tank, like you'd still
well,
like want a couple of those pieces as well.
Yeah, and I was gonna bring that up. It basically dual spec makes it so that we're no longer having the conversation of which tank is better. Because it's purely situational. Yes. It's like, well, one of my tanks is Holy Shield, and then the other one is a Holy Shock Paladin. I can switch between the runes at any the talents at any fucking time, and I just put on the gear, and away we go. And it's like, oh, okay, that I don't like that from a game design perspective, but it's fine.
Yeah,
I think it's fine.
And like I said, it's kind of one of those things where it's like obviously like deep prot. It's kind of like that classic Wrath of Lich King kind of style, where you're stacking strength, and strength gives you block, and then world buffs on top of that, so you're kind of revolving around this whole kind of attack power build, and that's why they switched away from the spell power. But they also referenced that because typically deep prot paladins would take Sheath of Light anyway, you're still getting some sort of like I think like at least one point of spell power for that anyway.
Yeah, you have to explain that to me because Tello, maybe you felt the same way about this, but I felt like a clueless idiot when I watched Blizzard just like they waffled back and forth about what the hell to do with like Malleable Protector and like Holy Shield. Like, does it give you attack power? Does it give you spell power? What the fuck was all that about?
I mean, dude, well, I was seeing a lot of people like confused on like whether to like take malleable protection or not, and then I know there was like 2 different sides of it, like on the PvP side, having its uses, and then on the PvE side as well for like deep prot.
Yeah, time out.
But I feel like
anyone who's telling you to not take Malleable Protector on the PvE side is a fucking moron. Continue.
Yeah, true though. But I feel like honestly, I don't know. Like I feel like they're conflicted on what they wanted to do with in terms of spell power versus attack power when it came to malleable protection.
Yeah.
I feel like they just threw it on there just to throw it on there to like give an answer to the community. Be like, all right, well, you know what? We'll just give you this.
Okay.
Let's see how it works out, and let's see how it plays out for you guys.
Yeah. So what my brain was going, it made sense they were trying to do something with Malleable Protector because it's opportunity costed against Sheath of Light, right? So if they don't make it good, every tank paladin and their dog are just going to take Sheath of Light unless you're specifically a Holy Shock Paladin. So that then
that's the same category as Infusion of Light.
Right. So it's just like
it is.
Yeah. So it's like very quickly, it's like, okay, if I'm building attack power and strength with a bunch of world buffs, I want Sheath of Light. But if I go block value and block value gear, then there's nothing here for me kind of a deal. I have no idea. I think Sheath of Light with world buffs is still the way to go, right? Tareyak? Math would probably go that direction.
It even depends on your raid and even your role too. So it's like, again, like I said, the whole kind of way Paladin's built with Holy Shield or Holy Shock, like either way, you should be able to provide like both main tanking and off tanking.
Yeah.
The thing with Malleable Defender is like that's your shield wall. So if you're main tank, like you're
No.
the one who's going to be taking those big hits. Like think about like patchwork in the enrage phase.
Mm.
That's when you'd pop Malleable Defender kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? So it's like that's basically kind of your opportunity cost. Now, in terms of speed run guilds, you don't have time to sit there and just like change out the like was it 3 second cast to change out the rune. So but gear swap will do it straight away though. So you just have an extra belt and all that kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? So like usually I rock around, but at least I think 32 pieces of gear. So there'd be like my threat set, my kind of like block set, if you will, and then I'd have kind of like the PvP set and then a resistance set of some sort. So it's like for Molten Core, be fire resist, for Blackwing Lair, shadow resist, AQ, nature, max frost, etc., etc.
Off the top of my head, I would think this. Okay, so what the top end guilds who can rely on having world buffs, what is good for them is not going to be the same as it's going to be for the average classic WoW and raiding guild, right? Who are going to get wiped,
I agree.
right, and all that stuff. For those people, mitigation is probably more important than TPS, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
100%.
Sheath of Light scales better with the world buffs than the Malleable Protector. So for average Joes, you probably want to go Malleable Protector, but then for top end people, you probably want to go Sheath of Light.
I forgot who I saw, but someone sent me I don't know who it was. I got to look at the screenshot again. But if somebody did show me a PTR screenshot where they were doing deep ret tanking, and Malleable Protection on the AP side was like doing better than Sheath of Light, and I don't know how I feel about like going. Like if you're in a guild and you're comfortable with like you can clear really fast, because with my guild like they're a bunch of like sweats, and like we all fucking try to clear really fast a lot. I feel like you would go Sheaf of Light with like most world buffs, but I can 100% understand, and I don't think it should be a bad thing like considering Malleable Protection if you're trying to go more heavier on the mitigation side. I feel like it's a safer option, to be honest, and you're still getting now that you're getting attack power on it as well, that's lasting what 15 seconds now, like isn't it something like that for each point of your
I have
defense
no
skill
idea. I
or
haven't looked
something?
at it at all.
I think it's like 15 seconds, but basically I think it's the more safe bet for a guild that's not trying to be super heavy on the parse end or like everybody consumes world buffs. So I think Malleable Protection kind of like, like for a warrior, you have your like shield wall, like I think that's pretty smart, to be honest.
No, I agree. And Blizzard definitely seems to be buffing her and mindful to try to make her competitive with Sheath of Light. So so that's cool.
Because Shiva Light was so strong.
And the reason
forever.
why, the likely reason why your boy was doing so good with it as a ret build is probably because he's using like Seal of Martyrdom and Seal of Command and stuff that's scaling with attack power.
It's straight AP for sure. 100%.
Yeah. Whereas like I think Tareyak, you'll know this. Math and TPS are pointing in the direction of using Seal of Righteousness. Period. Right.
Yeah, because like the reason why Seal of Martyr was so widely used is because it was doing the crits. The crits were counting as an actual reset, and then it was synergizing with the exorcism rune and all that kind of stuff. So the fact that like the Seal of Righteousness and Seal of Martyrdom, there's no kind of, it's basically just spell power or attack power. So like I said, like generally speaking, like Seal of Righteousness would do better, but again, like we're still blind going into this kind of like max level. We have to still see kind of like the whole kind of like shebang as well. But yeah, generally speaking, like Seal of Righteousness, even in terms of classic vanilla as well, it just always beat out any other seal.
Yeah, it's only worse now that it crits. As soon as they made it crit, it was just like, all right, it's game over. Game over. You're the best rune there is, or the best seal there is. Like there's no contest.
The best seal. Yeah.
Like, Jesus Christ. Like, Seal of Martyrdoms is over there being limp dick now. Like, I don't know what I do with my life.
If they remove the normalization, all of a sudden it opens up like slower speed weapons and all that kind of stuff, and maybe it brings in terms of there. But again, like I said, you need to have kind of like solid kind of like So to kind of like if they're making this change,
Yeah,
and
she
be
actually
able to actually test it
does
as
she
well.
actually do less than 50% damage when you go over 3.3 weapon speed or 3.4 or whatever it is? I have no idea.
Same. I haven't tested
Uh,
some at all.
not that you'd care.
Yeah,
Paladin
I
wouldn't
haven't
care.
I haven't seen that anything like less with just using what seal of righteousness.
Mm. No, we're saying Seal of Martyrdom is normalized around
Oh,
3.
seal of martyrdom from normalization.
Yeah,
Okay,
so I'm
I thought
wondering
that
if you use Seal of Martyrdom and you use it with like a 4.0 weapon, does it do less than 50% damage because it's normalized? Or does it cap at 50%?
Yeah, it would.
So
Because
it
that's
would
what
take the
normalization is.
50% hit. Yeah,
I think it does like
because
40% at 4.0 or some shit like that.
Yeah, because it's based around
Unironically.
whatever, like that 3.2 or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Tello's like, I don't know idea what you guys are talking about.
no, well, the thing is like I never like tested it out to see if it does that much less
Well,
damage at that normal.
they don't give us slow weapons to
Yeah.
test it, so it's like fuck. They kept feeding us like 2.2 speed weapons and shit to go into raids, and of course we're gonna use that because it's
Well,
doing
I
like
mean that's a
90%.
big concern.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big concern for me too. Where like I feel like they're showing so many like really cool slow weapons, and they're like adding further
Yeah.
like delay to weapons. And like my biggest
Yeah.
concern
And
is like
seal
what
twisting and pushing like the twisting meta with the gear and.
like don't get me wrong, like I'm all for like
Mm-hmm.
twisting, but like I'm confused. Like my biggest confused, I guess where like I'm fucking like out of it right now. Plus I'm pretty fucking hungover, so I apologize. I'm fucking slow.
There's a Chad
But
polearm. There's a Chad polearm. Even I think Vendor Strike is like 2.1 speed. So they're in there.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like as far as like the whole like seal thing, like they're like I don't like we didn't get the opportunity in the PTR to check out the seal stack thing. Like that's
Mm.
something that I wish we had the chance, and I feel like it's a big missed opportunity because we don't know if there's a chance it could be really fucking good. Like I see the potential with that seal stack thing. Really, like it could be really good, or it could be fucking like
Yeah.
just for some people they'll be like, oh, this is just a boring seal twist. This is
Well,
just a
yeah.
lazy seal
Well,
twist.
as written, it's supposed to be saying shit like you get to one judgment, 2 seals goes out. You know what I mean? I was like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is the really
I mean,
scary
That's gonna be
part.
spicy.
that might be scary. I mean, especially like if you're using if you're doing like
Repent,
seal
blow.
martyrdom,
Like fuck.
yeah, and just blast somebody as well. I mean, wait, could you stack seal justice as well, and like
uh,
with something else?
Define stack. Yeah, if you want it in twist terms, yeah, you could do that. But there's no point to it. What are you judging seal of justice for?
No, but I mean like just like having it on to get the stun. You know what I mean, and then having like I guess command on. Like, can you
Mm,
because I'm still kind of
no,
like confused on how the 6-piece set works. Like, can you like have the justice on to get the stun proc? You know what I mean, and then
it's a
I
two.
guess put
Get
out
the
a
extra
Hodge and
damage.
then
It's
to
a
get the extra damage.
it's a
Yeah.
2 second stun. So the answer is yes, because you would need one. You'd have to bitch slap them. You
Yeah.
literally, yeah, you'd have to have justice and command on. Then you bitch slap them. It stuns them for 2 seconds. That gives you enough time to put a seal up, and then you could judge it into them. Yeah, so I guess you only need like 0.2 seconds to get it going.
Okay. Okay.
No, you could do that, but that's some Drakova level shit right there. I don't know if you want to go that level of autistic. Jesus.
I mean, I like Seal Justice. I think it's pretty badass
I
in
mean,
PvP overall.
Drakova and Talrain were like using Seal of Justice. They literally twist it with command.
Yeah, it's smart.
And they'd get the stun, and they would just judge command into you, like, ah, I was like,
Yeah,
okay,
a nice
enjoy.
quick burst for sure. I mean, yeah, it's that's something I was doing against like mages. Like I would wait for them like to do their blink, and then I know they're gonna have like
Oh
their
yeah, good
displacement.
stuff.
So like right when they blink, I would get the seal justice, hodge them into the after the justice, so they're in the stun
Yep.
and they're hodging there and they're locked into it, and then I'm just like maybe even pop wings and just try to blast their ass. You
Oh
know what I
yeah,
mean?
totally.
Like
Yeah, totally.
as fast as possible.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, I mean as far as like um with the whole twisting thing and everything like that, I mean I guess we're gonna see where the future goes with it because like right now
Mm-hmm.
personally I'm just lost on whether I'm gonna be a fast Andy and try to go for Typhoon,
Ah,
or I'm gonna be a slow Andy and like they're hyping redefined Arcanite Reaper, like yay, that looks
yeah,
crazy, looks cool,
yeah.
but like is it gonna matter in the long run? Like will Hand of
Like,
Rag even matter for me?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
I
yeah.
have no fucking idea.
Yeah, honestly, if Blizzard is smart, Okay, and they've been showing signs of being intelligent, like far more so than they used to be in the past. All right.
No, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
If Blizzard is smart, they will mess around with both options being viable. Right? You want to do
Yeah.
the fast seal of martyrdom stuff? You've been doing this entire time. Here's your effing weapon. You want to be a slow twisting two hander? Here is the other one.
Yeah.
I would have liked it if one of those was skill based and one of those was not skill based, right? So
Yep.
for
I agree.
example, the ret set bonus is making it the thing that should be the skill based thing, the seal twisting, non skill based all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Which I don't much care for, but at the same time, it is fascinating and different and unique. They could very easily give a different set bonus that would make the speedy boys also be able to do some weird stuff, if that makes any sense. Let me think about this. Okay. I'll give you an example. What if they made Art of War? Uh, uh, Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, what if they made Art of War, rather than being a 2-second reset, it was a 4-second reset if you were using a two-handed weapon? You follow me on that?
Mm.
So if
No,
you,
I see what you're saying.
yeah, so if
Okay.
you're using the slow ones, it's like whoop de fucking do. But if you're using the fast one, exorcism spam is back on the table.
Yeah. I mean, that can be intriguing. I mean, man, I just feel like, with like Art of War, for the past couple phases right now, it just, don't get me wrong, like I love playing Paladin and that's all I fucking do, right? Of course in SOD at the moment, and that's what I mainly cover, but like I just for the past three phases, ever since, Exorcism spamming became a thing, it's like it's been just so like
It's a
don't
love
get me
it or
wrong,
hate it
I
deal. It's a love it
it's
or
a
hate
lover
it.
or hater
Yeah.
thing. I get like it's like the raft style, and then eventually in retail they move on to haste as well, and haste
Mm-hmm.
is a thing for everybody. And it's like, oh, it's a fucking carnival. Everybody gets haste. That's great. But I mean, now it's like I'm like, please, like like give us the options. Like you're talking about making shock and inviolable. Now you're giving malleable protection. Deep rot seems like it's gonna be fucking juicy.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're looking at Art of War, and I feel like there's just this confusing thing right now with like, all right, we have all these slow models, we're revamping things in dungeon itemized loot, and we're changing properties from weapon speed to go from a little bit faster to slower, to like
Mm-hmm.
increase the time speed. And now I'm like, all right, well, if you want us to benefit two hand, then like give us like the options of like what two hand we're gonna go. I think even that you even mentioned in I was peeping a video you did like on the back slot too. Um, like about like how the options there are kind of like
Yeah, there's a lot of
minimal
room for
for like for
improvement,
like deep
to
red. Like
say the least. Yeah.
yeah, like on the PvP side, I actually like saw your point about like divine light. Like that kind of makes sense. Where like
Yeah.
maybe like a deep rep paladin would want to go divine light because they don't have the time to get off those bit extra holy
Yeah,
or FOLs.
and they sure
Like
as hell don't want a dot in the fucking target. Jesus Christ, they want to pin
exactly,
it.
and
Yeah.
and righteous vengeance is something I kind of have a problem with.
Mm.
I don't hate it. I just think there could be better text to it because well, first things first in PvP, well, who the fuck is gonna want to repent in righteous vengeance?
Yeah.
You're literally ruining the
Yeah. Yeah.
point for
Yeah.
either like closing the gap or going away from the gap, depending on who you're fighting, and like choosing what you're going more in the defensive or offensive. Why would you use righteous vengeance? And in PvE during the PTR, before pre vindicator nerf,
nerf.
when
Yeah.
it's in the vindication on the ret tree, I was like, righteous vengeance is kind of mid.
Yeah.
I don't know, like it just didn't feel like I was like, okay, this is nice, but then again, I don't know if they're ever gonna make a solid change to it, unless more people talk about it or they see the data within a couple weeks after MC.
Yeah. Okay. I got a quick
Because
question for you. Okay. So since from what I'm hearing, you're a little bit on the you're either straight up on the I want the fast two-handed playstyle train, or you would like to have both options available. Correct?
yeah, I think giving
I'm
everybody
yeah yeah
options
yeah yeah
available,
yeah
I like that.
yeah. I'm 100% on the give us both options. Right.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, for sure.
the question that we need to ask here, however, is what damn it, what am I trying to say here? Because I proposed how you could change the runes to make the fast playstyle better. Um, what percentage of that fast playstyle is centered around just having a good weapon for it? So, for example, they came out with Refined
Mm.
Arcanite Reaper. What if they came out with Refined Crowd Manual Pummeler?
Oh God, not the
Yeah.
crowd public. Oh God.
You sick of that?
Um,
You
I,
sick of that
I,
weapon
I,
yet?
I'll I'll tell you this much. All right, the most like disappointment I had last phase, especially with my guild, and
All
my
right.
guild they all know how I felt about this. When I went into ZF, got Soul Thrays, and I was like, wow, this is gonna be my weapon.
2.0
This is a
fucking
badass
disgusting.
weapon.
Yeah. It wasn't?
Yeah,
It wasn't?
well,
All right.
well,
I'm
when
listening.
on the data
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in an ST, if you're like on the PVE side, if you're doing like just deep red PVE, you're using Crowd Pummeler off its cooldown because it's a
Yeah,
30
yeah, yeah,
second
yeah, yeah.
haste buff.
It doesn't, yeah, it doesn't
30
matter.
second
Yeah, yeah,
haste buff opener
yeah,
with exo spam on natural phase 3 before PTR
yeah,
change at all
yeah, yeah, yeah,
was disgusting. I'm
yeah.
literally Iron Man throwing out blast every 5 seconds.
Yep,
And like why would I want
yep,
to get rid of that? And then I
yeah.
go back to no, don't get me wrong, the Soul 3's damage fell off a little bit, but it was
Mm-hmm.
still good as a filler until you had
Crowd
ACP come
pummeler back
back
again. Yeah.
and your gnomish helmet from phase 2,
Oh,
which would also
oh,
give you
oh,
the
yeah.
the
Right.
haste buff as well. And then if you got the well, you
Yeah.
don't need it, but the chicken, or it's like the not the chicken trinket, but it's like one of the trinkets from gnome
It's
that
the
gives you a
chicken.
5%.
It's the chicken.
I think
Yeah.
it is, right?
Yeah.
The
Yep.
5%, if you want to use it besides its side
Yeah. Yeah.
effect, you're getting so much haste.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's
Yep.
like
Yep.
you're basically playing a RAF retail style palette. Now, don't get me wrong. Yeah, I agree with you. I think they should keep both, but it's about how they either this is what I was mentioning, like when I was talking about my videos too, where I was like, I like the way that they're treating Vindication and they're going into the trees. I wonder if they're ever going to go into the trees even further with other seals or
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
things in
I
general.
saw that video and I wanted to smack you, but we'll get to that later.
True, that is true.
Because
But I'm just saying, I'm
you
just
were
curious if that's what they're going to do.
you were like, oh man, this talent right here, nobody really uses it. It's terrible. It could have some improvements. And as a PvPer, I'm looking at you like that's a PvE perspective. Shut the fuck up. I was like, I
Well,
want
that
my
is true.
10%
Yeah.
increased chance to resist. Like, shut
Well,
up.
and don't get me wrong, I've used Unyielding Fate. It's just there's just times where like I just as like don't get me wrong, like obviously like I do a mix of both PvP and PvE,
Yeah, yeah,
right? And
yeah.
I don't lean too heavily to both sides, but I love PvP in general.
Yeah.
But I would say that every time I use Unyielding Faith, I'm like, am I noticing this, or maybe it's
Yeah,
just something
yeah,
that
yeah,
I
yeah.
just got to pay more attention to? I don't
I
know. I
I
just
I
feel like it's just like
I
a
th- I
little like
yeah.
underwhelming.
I think it
That's
only
all.
screws rogues. You know what I mean? And
Mm,
we just never
for the
notice it.
disorientation.
Yeah, they're probably
Yeah.
throwing a blind and it has like an insane chance to be resisted and it super pisses them off, but we just never notice. You know what I mean? We're just sitting over
Yeah,
there
because
fighting them like, oh,
true.
I wonder why he didn't throw blind. Ah, what a moron. And he dies.
Yeah, I wonder if there's something I can even do for like a weak R, maybe for unyielding or just something. I don't know how, like, because like
Mm.
I know you have weak Rs for like reckoning. You could
Mm-hmm,
check your rec
mm-hmm.
counter. You know what I mean? But like, I wish I can like see like, is this thing kicking in? Like, do I know? Like, because like maybe I'm not seeing it for warlocks. I definitely don't see it.
Yeah.
Warlocks, if they hit me with something, unless I don't have like the void braces for like engineer, like
Well,
to
yeah,
resist
yeah,
fear
yeah.
or stuff. But
Warlock's a good bad example because the fear resisted. Let me just cast it again. Fuck you.
yeah, and it's so fast. It's like what the
Better
fuck?
examples are like warriors and priests, for example. When their
Oh
shit
yeah,
gets
yeah, the
resisted,
stream.
it's like, oh fuck.
Yeah,
Right.
that feels good. Yeah.
Here's the question. Okay, so we gave some examples about how Blizzard could improve from a rune perspective, making the fast two-handed meta more viable. However, as you've noticed, okay, um, speed is king. Right,
Yeah.
you just went out a whole spiel about how you got Soul Thrays and discovered that Crowd Manual Pummeler is still the shit because
Yeah.
speed is king.
No, no, it just seems like that's the case in SOD.
Well,
Speed of discovery.
but it was the same thing for Seal of Righteousness back in the day, right? Whereas, like, literally, I'm making videos about how Flurry Axe is your best one-hander for the entire fucking game, even compared to Nax geared weapons, and people are like, "What are you talking about?" Blah 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 blah, and I'm right. I'm not
Yeah,
wrong. I'm
Florex is
right.
so good too.
So yes,
No, Florex is really good.
yes,
Yeah.
speed is king. She's effectively a 1.3 speed weapon. if Blizzard was ever dumb enough to give us like a 1.2 speed dagger or something like that as a paladin, it would just be insane.
Oh, please don't. Please don't. Yeah.
Yeah, but for the two-handers, the only reason speed is king is because Seal of Martyrdom is normalized. I am actually a fan of Seal of Martyrdom being normalized, even though I hate it, because it does make it more dynamic and more interesting. So I like the fact that Blizzard's at least setting up the options, right? They gave Seal of Martyrdom to everybody, right?
Yeah.
Blizzard is definitely setting it up so that the Seal Twist is becoming more viable, even for the average Joe, who can't actually Seal Twist because they don't have add-ons, aka me. But at the same time, the door is more open than it ever was before for fast two-handed play. So the only thing in my brain I'm wondering is, it's like, are we just missing that insane 2.0 speed weapon? Question mark. Are we missing a refined crowd manual pummeler?
I mean, yeah, it's very possible. I mean, I think what the new let me see. I think the Typhoon is at 2.90, or did they decrease the speed on that weapon now?
There's a 2.1 pole arm. I know that.
Yeah, because I saw a screenshot. Somebody was saying that Typhoon is like going to less, and I'm like, if it's going lesser than 2.90, like something more fast, then
yeah,
that's gonna be a weapon we're stuck with again.
The
like,
fastest,
I'm nervous.
The fastest two-handed weapon I can possibly think of in the entire game, I do believe it's a pole arm, and it's like 1.9. But but we're talking like a leveling weapon, a 1.9 pole arm. I'm like, what the balls is this thing? Like, give me. But
I don't know. It just, for me, it's like it just doesn't, like, you know, when you look at like even like the class fantasy, you know, of a paladin, you know, it's when I look at the class fantasy of, like, you know,
Ret.
itself, because like I've it just Ret in general, but like you know, like you want like a badass, you know, a sword and board, mason board, whatever, or a big slow two-hander, like just a badass looking weapon. And whether you know, you're playing either holy or pra or ret, you never really like seeing like just something that's just like a super fast quick weapon. I don't know, it's off-putting for me personally, but I get why people, I guess, on more on the ret side of things, like it, because of like what we're forced to do right now and what is the meta. But for me, like, I do want to see, like, I'm not asking for slow to be like top 3 DPS in the game. You know what I mean? I don't think that's what paladins are even asking for. Like, or the community themselves are asking for. I think they want to see it just to be in the middle of the pack.
There was that blue post. You not a blue post. Maybe it was a blue post. There was that Twitter comment where they were pointing out that if hybrid classes are, like, you know, top tier DPS, we've done fucked up, which I agreed with completely, right? And it's like, well, these classes have a ton of utility, so if they're also top tier DPS, that means we fucked up somehow. And I'm like, I could not agree more. So it means that ret, you know, at best you could be like 3rd or 4th on the damage meters as far as classes are concerned.
Yeah. Like listen, even like last phase, I think we were top 5, and two hunters were involved, right? And like there was range and melee, they were still good. And like, don't get me wrong, I think, you know, as a pure DPS spec, like hunters,
pure DPS classes should be near the top, 100%.
I have no issues with that. But my thing is that, like, even if slow two hand, like, this is just more of a personal bias, so obviously I'm not taking this with a grain of salt. Right. But even if I was a middle of the class pack, but I can have fun off of like twisting personally, and have a really dope two hand, I would prefer that style over just do fast exo spamming, but keep both styles in the game so both people can have the options to be flexible. I mean, even with the last PTR changes, they did so much shit to Hunter where they're trying to address every style of Hunter, and like, yo, you could do this without the pet, with the pet, if the pet's dying, or this and that. And like, they're just trying to, you know, do so much with that class. And it's like, I hope they find the correct thing going on with Paladins overall, and especially when you guys were talking before, like with Shotguns, in terms of like where we're going via AP or SP, and how this class is going to play out overall in the phase in general, you know?
Yeah. Shotgun is definitely the elephant in the room, because she's actually not fucking around as a DPS spec, which is really weird if you stop and think about it. In my experience dealing with ret paladins, okay, talk about class fantasy here really fast, okay? In my experience dealing with ret paladins, all they want in life is to do lots of damage.
Yeah, they do have a
that's it.
warrior brain.
Like, yeah. So I watch them. I'm like, okay, what the fuck are you wearing? Like, what are you wearing into PvP, bro? Like, why do you have 3,000 HP and everything in the world says I'm trying to maximize DPS out here? You do realize the Horde are going to blow you the fuck up, right? And then apparently the answer is no, and they're just going to have to learn the hard way. And it doesn't really change in raids. They just want to do as much damage as they possibly can. If we're talking about the big two-hander just doing shit tons of damage, PvP is fine because Reckoning still exists, right?
Reckoning's badass. Yeah,
and not only that, we got the new Reckoning rune, which is kind of fucking disgusting.
Oh, within Aegis.
Oh yeah, I'm like, oh geez.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
hell yeah.
I saw
me up
that.
for that shit.
As if it couldn't get any better, boys.
Rogues are gonna get hacked to pieces.
Dude,
yeah,
I remember when I literally was streaming, Tar was like, "Oh, you got to do this with Reckoning," and then I was discovering the tech because, like, I'm a new paladin in the game. You know what I mean? I'm not like, I'm still learning from you guys, and like I love like learning so much and like getting involved and discovering all this tech that I was never really aware of. And then like once I saw it, I was like, "Holy fuck!" Like. I gotta ask around.
Old.
I gotta do.
It never gets.
I gotta do the studies.
That was 50% nerf as well.
Yeah, and that's not. And that was like during like I was even remember when I was testing in phase 2, but like when I did in phase 3, I was like, holy shit! And now we're going into this phase, and I'm like, bro, what happens when we get like the full, more PvP gear, more stam, like. With the wreck and with the bomb and Aegis now, like what the fuck is gonna happen?
Did you see my video where I was like on the PTR and I'm like, nope, I'm losing, but everything's fine, and I'm trying to prove that we're gaining like plus 50% HP and like plus 33%.
Oh yeah, I did see that. Yeah, shit. I did see that.
Yeah. Because I'm like wreck bombing rogues and they're getting away with 30% life, and I'm like, okay, you're fucking dead as soon as they get a molten core weapon. Like, okay, everything's fine. Everything's normal. Stop panicking.
No, yeah, for sure. I mean, don't get me wrong. Rogues have their ways of going about, like, I fought some really good rogues where I'm like, okay, this guy's impressive. The gun kick, the stun, the gouge, the blind, like, the vanish.
It's the fucking gouge not being on a DR with anything. What the fuck?
Yeah.
They'll gouge you for 5.5 seconds. It's not DR'd with anything. I'm like, this is the most oppressive bullshit I've ever seen.
And now I think
seen is Peo like basically taking people to the
bottom. Oh my god, you've watched? I haven't watched Peo. Peo will kill people underwater with that shit.
Yeah, he'll drown them.
I got link that video for me, please.
That's so funny.
That's so stupid.
He regularly does it. Do you know what I mean? It's just some content he does. He'll just be at the boats and he'll take a warrior and then like
because it's 5.5 seconds gouge, and then you gouge them again for like 3 some or so odd seconds. The gunshot's not DR'd with anything, and then there's got 10 seconds of normal stun. Okay, fuck it. And then the gouge is back off cooldown again. Oh,
and they got prep as well.
I think
so they reset it.
I think also like now with the change to they're able to backstab you without needing to be behind you now.
What?
So yeah, they can be in front of you in order to do that now as well. That's a change now for rogues now. So I'm not gonna lie, like as far as like like a lot of classes are eaten, and I know they did take the big hit to mutilate for like 20%.
Yeah.
But like. Well, they happen all across the board, actually. Even like their excess damage after mutilate, I think by 20%. So like they got hit, but they're still going to be eating. Like I think they're going to be in a fine spot, and even in PvP.
I don't think it matters. At the end of the day, unless they touch the rogue CC toolkit, it doesn't. They could probably just do the whole. You remember those videos where they're like starting zone daggers and still fucking murdering people? They can probably do that shit in Season of Discovery. So it's like whatever.
100%. It's so bursty. Everything in this, overall, I don't think we're going anywhere. We're not moving from that anytime soon. And all the people like, I was even seeing like community people be like, oh, we got to move away from the burst men. I'm like, there's just no shot. How are you gonna move away from all this stuff, all these runes?
I actually disagree.
All this shit.
Disagree completely, and here's why. So,
okay, tell me.
If I made a video on this, but if you look at the way classes scale over time, okay. So we're talking like rogues, kitty cat druids, spellcasters in particular. All right, how they a terrifying percentage of their damage just comes from their baseline ability. So butt naked, no weapons, they just push button. They do a shit ton of. It's something stupid like 80% of their damage is them just being level 60. I trained a new rank of skill, push button. Okay. They don't actually scale all that hard off of the gear that they get. Now, this is rogues and druids. This is energy-based classes in general. All right, so that's
Okay.
rogues and druids. Warriors and paladins and all those classes. We scale up a hell of a lot harder from what we saw on the PTR. But what really starts skyrocketing on our classes and a lot of classes is HP pools. Like I said, we're missing like 50% HP right now, and that's compared to what I can put on for Molten Core. Like I'm dealing with like 4,300 HP, which is really heavy on the PTR. But in Molten Core gear, I'm like 5,600, which is not even a contest. So the same story plays out with spellcasters. Spellcasters are buffed out their ass right now as a fresh level 60 because they've trained up fresh ranks. Their ranks are half of their spells damage, and they're already sitting on something like 80% of next level gearing spell power. You follow me on this? From what I've heard, they're actually pissed off right now because they're looking at the Molten Core gear and realizing they're not really getting all that much increase in their spell power. Their critical strike chance is going up, which is fine, but giving casters critical strike is not the same as giving them spell power. I want to make that abundantly clear. So when you give a caster, so we're talking from a PvP perspective, right? When you give them critical strike chance, what you're effectively giving them is that when they roll the dice on trying to burst you out of existence, it's more frequent that they'll come up Yahtzee and explode the enemy. Right? You follow me on that?
Yeah.
Right. So if they have a 15% critical strike chance and they burst on you, it might be a 1 in 7 burst. They just delete you out of existence. If they scale up to 30% increased critical strike chance, it might be like a 1 in 4. However, if you're gearing properly for PvP, you actually have enough HP to typically survive like that unless that 1 in 4 comes through or that 1 in 7 comes through. What's really hard to do is to outscale the spell power, not so much the critical strike, if that makes any sense. From what I've seen, it's the trinkets that Blizzard seems to be really focusing on for getting your HP up enough that it's no longer
the stamina on the trinkets.
Right, because that's something we've never had before. And if you actually look at the itemization on the trinkets, like historically, it's all over the fucking place in power level. So for example, those trinkets, it's like, I have like 22 stamina and like 20 fire resist on a fucking trinket. And I think that's insane, but then I turn and I look at like Goblin Mortar and I'm like, okay, maybe you guys are like, maybe this isn't a crazy PvP trinket. Or you look at like Burrower Shell, for example, 2-minute cooldown, 800 shield. Follow me on that. So, it'll be less bursty going forward because what's going to happen is everyone's HP bar is going to increase significantly. Casters, I think, are running around with about 3,000 hit points, maybe 3,500 hit points, depending upon how they're built. They'll shoot up to 5,000 HP, and that's like in Molten Core alone. And then melee classes were running around like 4,000-ish hit points. Molten Core will shoot up to over 5,500. By the time you're like Nax geared, you could be running around with like 7,000 fucking hit points. Like, no.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty. Yeah, I guess I see what you mean on that. That's a good point. I feel like also like I think the big key thing that you mentioned too is like which I would pass my mind because like from the past, like we don't really normally see stamina on trinkets.
Yeah.
That's a kind of a game changer, and especially in PvP. Specifically for PvP. But even just I would assume now too, like if you just need extra stam, whether you're off tank or main tank, like those possible trinkets for extra health is a better bang for your buck for your hit points overall to sustain more attacks depending on what you're versing, whether in PvP or a boss in PvE.
Yeah, that's why I changed my mind. Say your piece.
That Inixia talisman, like given the 1%
spell
hit
ridiculous.
And physical hit as well, it's defense. It's amazing.
Yeah, that looks actually really juicy. I'm not gonna lie.
And what's weird is she's not overpowered for WoW trinkets. You could drop that thing in Classic Era and it still wouldn't be overpowered. I'm not kidding. because a 3-second stun is a 3-second fucking stun. Do you know how much healing a 3-second stun is? Do you know how much DPS a 3-second? Fuck off. Tactically and all that stuff, 3-second stuns is ridiculous. You drop that thing in like a retail WoW, and a 3-second stun is overpowered as fuck. So it's just like
retail, you're dead.
Yeah. So
yeah.
It's just like, okay. So I don't think it's overpowered at all. That's why I changed my mind completely on Divine Steed in a recent video, because I said previously I was like, okay, what Divine Steed's gonna do is it frees up trinket slots. Like, whoop de fucking do. But then I noticed they put the stamina trinkets in the game, and I'm like, oh, I see where we're going. Oh, okay, yeah, definitely give me Divine Steed then. Thank you, Blizzard. Because yeah, if they want me to throw on these trinkets and not die like a bitch, then they're gotta give me a gap closer, or I'm just gonna die like a bitch over the course of like 10 minutes.
No, and also, by the way, I want to add to that. I did not expect them.
Yeah, that was
and
funny.
This is, I'm like, I think they just had it, and when I said it, and then people in the community started adding me, they're like, "Bro, you did it." I'm like, "What did I do? I just woke up."
Shit.
They had that. There's no way that was me. Like, I want to take the claim off of me right now.
Yeah.
No
I'm
shot.
surprised who watches your videos, man.
Bro,
Seriously,
but that's like, I literally was like, bro, I'm about to get shot by everyone.
But
this is not good.
You were bitching about it for like 3 weeks, dude. It's like 3 fucking weeks. You're like, Divine Steed, boo! But Savix was bitching about it even before that, so.
Well, yeah, he was definitely bitching about it,
Yeah.
and like, I was like, listen, even if it's not Steed, like, I was like saying, like, if it's just something else, where like, some type of like minuscule, like whether it's like a judgment, which I know they've probably had this in other versions too, but like just something giving you some type of small percentage of speed. I mean, like, the biggest thing was like, from like a lot of these other classes, like, as SOD goes on, people are getting faster and faster. Now I know Paladins have their way of, closing naturally too with other. I know you brought up good points too, Pally, with like, trinkets, nades, stuns. There's Avenger Shield.
Yeah, time out. It's not really that about Paladin. There's absolutely nothing wrong with giving Paladin a gap closer, except for one little problem. Okay, is that Paladins are already insanely durable. And people are constantly asking to make them more lethal. And you can't have both insane durability, insane lethality, and then gap closers. You can't go there. Otherwise, you're the hero class. You're a fucking shaman at that point, and you just can't go there. So it's like, my concern is, you give me gap closers, and suddenly I know I can't be hyper lethal anymore. And then I turn and I look at Reckoning, and I'm like, okay, well, the whole reason why we have Reckoning over here, that's why we're not allowed nice things like gap closers. Is because traditionally we touch you fucking die.
No, I get that, and the one thing that makes sense, and something that a good point you come across too, without even having saying it, is that the reward for getting close to somebody, when that happens and they feel that wreck, and I know Tar's even seen it too, when I've done streams, when I've gotten close to like a mage or whoever, and then I hit him with it, it's one of the most satisfying feelings for me in the game. It's like, holy fuck, you just got alt control F4'd. Turn off your PC. So have a good night. Yeah, or all F4. Have a good night. Cancel the sub. Maybe re-roll. Try Paladin. But the thing is, it's like,
you're playing the wrong class, bro. Let me show
you're
you
playing
something.
the wrong class. Enjoy your Frostfire Bolt with your 16% nerf now. Whatever. But they're still gonna be good. But regardless of that, I get what you're saying, and it's like, and then like there was a good discussion I think you were talking about too, with like, with shamans, and like the fact, like, with their move speed increase already, but on top of wolves, which makes it like, okay, like, these motherfuckers, these boys are fast. Like, they can.
It's like, I don't know where their weakness is. Okay, you're a ranged, hyper lethal, hyper durable, hyper mobile class with no mana issues.
Yeah.
What the fuck is this thing?
And
even
you can shit all over our
pissed off
skills
about it.
like,
Even the Hoarder, like, what the fuck are you doing, bro?
And I saw the way you fought that one, the shaman you were testing recently, and like, and that's a good point, because that's something that I would try to do myself, where it's like, it's more of a sustained fight versus a shaman, where it's a lot of other classes, like, you usually would just go, all right, maybe I'll just go up to you and bonk you, that's it. But when like you're fighting a shaman, it's like, wait, we're playing a chess match. And it's and that happens with mages too, but with Steed during my testing, it kind of changed the game against them, that where they're not doing frost against me, they're trying to do more arcane. And just be quick and on the go, which it's good strats, and I like that stuff of like, sod, which for me like keeps it classic in a way where it's like there is a lot of like cool, unique ways still to fight people. But as the game keeps going, and I don't know if they're gonna ever, what even later on down the road if they keep adding more runes. I have no idea what they're gonna go with that. What do you guys feel like how
I have
about the more runes discussion? Like, do you think that's something they should slow down on or start?
I have a quick question really fast on that subject
Yeah.
because in all my duel videos in the PTR, I tried with a fiery passion not to use Divine Steed, and so I never once
Yeah.
used Divine Steed. So here's my question for you, Tello. While using Divine Steed, did you ever think to yourself, if I had this in conjunction with Mortar and Netomatic, this fucker is annihilated right now? That thought ever
No,
crossed
I
your
mean,
mind?
no, no, I mean, now thinking about it, like, yeah, if I were to have like a Netomatic just that alone, that they're fucked,
Yeah.
like 100%. It's just the fact that like you can tell, like for example, like, and both of you guys are like more knowledgeable this on me, but like obviously you can tell when you're versing someone who's playing their class
Oh
well,
yeah.
who's not playing
Oh
their
yeah.
class well,
Pucker your
and
asshole when you start seeing
yeah,
the.
exactly. And you could see the good players versus the bad, and it's like if I know somebody's doing a certain thing and I'm like, oh wait, this dude's kiting me pretty smart,
Oh
and like,
yeah.
oh, he's playing this well, or he's actually fucking well more aware than I thought. I thought I was just gonna ruin this
Oh
person,
yeah.
but not a lot of people do that, and I think you opened my mind up more to like the consumable side, where I was just trying to figure out like on the side of where sod possibly might still be going if other classes continue to get like just more fast and fast things. And then I was concerned where like
Ah.
when I made the post where I was like, what happens if like it comes to the point like yeah we still have that if
Yeah.
we're in range we're lethal, and I know for shotgun it's a little bit different, like they could surprise some people from range, like they don't get to. And now with like what we were talking about earlier with I think you were saying like 2,000 off a crit, right,
Uh
Tar,
huh.
like just
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
PTR, like if you hit somebody that from range, no one's gonna fucking expect that from a paladin,
Well.
like
Yeah, because
they
like that
Yeah.
that that's the thing about sorry to interrupt, but that's the thing about shotgun is like you
yeah.
don't actually have to catch them. You
Yeah.
basically like
Yeah,
circumvent that
exactly.
need,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. No.
That
Yeah.
that is so scary because
Yeah.
it's
It
like
is.
they're gonna be like, wait, wait, okay, he hit me with an exorcism, whatever. But it's like, wait, what the fuck else did he just hit me
Well.
with?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that kind of changes my mind to like, man, how am I gonna play it in PvP now?
I dueled a warrior and I literally kited him the whole duel. Like I just
Yeah.
kept fucking Avenger
Yeah.
shield into him,
Rogues
just hitting with
too.
holy shot
Yeah.
from range.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
See,
fucking
that's
hilarious.
that's different, and it's like that's like a whole nother avenue for me to explore because it's like, wait, is now like shocking as we further keep going? Is that gonna be a more
Yeah.
viable option?
Shakadin is legitimately the elephant in the room because Blizzard.
Yeah,
It. They may have created a new hero class as far as PvP is concerned, and they just don't know it yet.
yeah, and,
But
I see the potential for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, we'll talk about that in a sec. But what's really good about game design in Paladin PvP in general, okay, follow me on this, is um because everything is the elephant in the room with the talent trees for Paladin is fucking Reckoning. The second
Yeah,
elephant in the room is eye for an eye, but Reckoning is the big elephant in the room, okay? Because Reckoning plus Gap Closer typically means people explode. But you'll notice that the paladins that don't have access to Reckoning, aka Holy Shock and then a Deep Repent paladins, they already
yeah,
have ranged slash gap closing tools at their disposal, if that makes any sense. So like I said, nobody really needed gap closers, but if they want us to go super tanky with the trinkets, then it makes perfect sense to me. My concern always was that it was like, well, the only fucking class that actually, the only spec that actually really needs a gap closer is the Reckoning Paladins. And if you give them a gap closer, they're a fucking Reckoning Paladin. So what are we doing here? Meanwhile, Holy Shock is just over there. I'm 20 yards away. Fucking die now. The repent paladins are like, hey, let me throw a grenade. Let me cozy on up to you and let me say hello. It's like, oh,
no, I
okay.
mean, yeah, I agree with that. Like, I feel like the way you're describing it too, where it's like, oh, now we're like, like that's the whole shocking thing, like being able to kite now, like what Tar was saying, like that's gonna be like new like tech to me, where it's like, okay, well, I'm not used to like kiting as a paladin and just nuking somebody from like 20 yards out. where I'm like, wait, like that's a potential thing I would love to like, even like further test. But as far as like, the deep ret and like the reckoning, I mean, yeah, you're right. Like reckoning, you get up close, it's just a ticking time bomb, especially now with like, having steed, it makes it where it's definitely much more scarier. And on the deep ret side, it's more like, okay, I got these gadgets at my side where I can just, get you close and you don't expect it,
I feel like Divine Steed is a better defensive tool than she is an offensive tool 90% of the time. Like that's how my
Yeah,
brain looks at it.
I like that. No, that's smart because like you get away, maybe get a couple flash of lights off, just
Yeah.
close the distance, maybe getting a drink or eat real quick and like
Rather than having to
reset the
bubble, you're
angle.
like, all right, fine. You got my Divine Steed. It's on a 45-second cooldown. What the fuck do I care?
I,
I've got 3
I'm
Reckoning
just
charges
happy.
so far. Let's go heal
Yeah.
the full. We'll come back in. We'll do round 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I like the reset angle of it more than the oppressive angle of it. Or it's like, oh, I'm just gonna chase you. Now, if obviously if they're dead, they're dead. But then like depending on what you're running, if you're running proof hammer raft, you're still gonna catch them with a hammer no matter what, right?
Oh yeah.
Like they're just gonna be dead off the rip. But I like the whole chess match system that it adds to it. Like it's already there naturally before Steed. But the one thing I will say is I'm happy they just didn't make the Steed the full on retail Steed. I was gonna be like, all right, wait, no. You can attack on the horse, like you're able to like, so like imagine like if you were like reckoning, you're still on the steed and you're doing a wreck bomb while on the horse. You're not off the horse yet.
No, fuck you. Give me that. What are you talking about?
You
got shamans over there. They're like infinite mana. Shut the fuck up. Make us a hero class. I mean, if we're gonna go that route, let's just do it. Jesus, that would have been funny. You can attack on the horse.
Yeah, on retail, yeah, you can literally attack on the horse, and not only that, you get 2 charges, not just 1.
Nifty.
So it's like a ×2 counter on the retail end. Yeah.
What manifests? The chess game in World of Warcraft in Classic WoW was really fascinating. But okay, what were people saying on the forums? I want to do some prop Paladin talking here in a sec. But what were people talking about on the forums as far as Paladin went?
I mean, the one of the biggest complaints that I'm seeing right now is basically there was like a big back and forth discussion between one user and Zyrene about paladins and like terms of like more on the red side of like seal twisting. Why is it like not currently like this in a fact where he was basically saying that you should admit that the effort of higher gameplay for a player like doing twisting should be rewarded, and for that reward that damage should be equivalent to that reward of you like landing that twist within that like small window, 0.4, right?
Like what we
so
said, like what we said previously, where it was like we want the fast play and we want the twist play, but we want one of those to be a skill expression.
Exactly. So like, a lot of people were like, from what I was even seeing too, and like I was like seeing like, basically doing simcast of like how two-handed even is still out DPSing slow. So it's like, what is the point of like even having slow two-hand if at the end of the day it's just never going to catch up? And then Zyrene basically said that they're changing a lot of stuff in 1.15.3 that he was saying, and because he has the same opinion as this other person that he was claiming that twisting should be the highest DPS because he was saying it's the hardest, but other styles should be decent as well. So it's like, I am now where I'm like, where are we going with this? So like, are you now like confirming that twisting should be bigger DPS overall and rewarded to like players that are more aware of it? Like, so that's where I'm a little confused right now.
So sitting here, I'm thinking to myself, what are the other options? So another option might be that the twisting style, okay, it will vary in damage significantly. It will vary in performance. Whereas the two-handed Seal of Martyrdom will be more consistent, if that makes sense. So let's say one is consistently like 1,000 DPS, but the other one ranges between like 800 and like 1,200 DPS. Parsers, and I don't know about speedrunners, but I fucking know parsers. Parsers are going to tell you that the one that can potentially get the higher numbers is better. Because that's all they fucking care about.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
True.
So my thoughts on it is that like if they made Divine Storm part of the Art of War proc and made it non-normalized, all of a sudden now you have an excuse to go very slow, heavy-handed, all that.
So
And then in
you're
terms of
talking about
rotations as well.
reducing the cooldown of Divine Storm.
Yes.
I
And
mean,
that's the
it's a
aggro.
10-second GCD, right? Like it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's fucking. I mean, it is kind of like, damn, that's 10 seconds. That shit's down.
Yeah,
Like what the fuck?
that would work. Yeah, like you could definitely do that.
And
There's lots of room for them to improve it. How do I put this? There's also how do I fuck? Okay, here's what I'm trying to say. Um, I also don't mind if they make this tier 1 set seal twisting's not really a skill expression with the set bonuses. But imagine if like tier 2 and forward they drop that, if that makes any sense. I don't know. I don't know if that'd be a good thing or a bad thing. Like, how much do we actually want it? I don't know. It's like I
Well,
I like the
yeah,
idea of the skill expression equaling more DPS, but I'm aware that it can't be more than 10% of an increase in DPS.
yeah,
Because
that's what I was gonna say.
otherwise,
Because
because
yeah.
a lot of these fuckers want it to be like 20% or 25% more DPS,
yeah,
and it's just like no,
No.
because
it's
Yeah.
like
ridiculous.
a perfect example is like in Wrath. If you look at my macro, it's done like 95% of like if you weren't to use the put it all into one macro, which I
Mm.
think is like that perfect balance. Where because even then there are people saying no, like the macro is too shit. I want to do it 100%,
Hmm.
but they'll still go. So like if you had a simple rotation that you could, let's say, one button macro to it, because
Hmm.
that's still the original kind of like design. Because if you can go back to like 2004, 2005 when they were given the presentation, you're like Paladin's the easy class, all that kind of shit, and the whole community went fucking mad over it. But again, like if you had that kind of simple kind of like, okay, yeah, we had just have this kind of standard like 6-line rotation that you could macro, and then you have the seal twisting where it's like, okay, now you're
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
an
yeah.
extra 5-10% damage because you're getting rewarded now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. No,
No, yeah.
yeah, and I think you there's no way to make the fast playstyle a skill expression, correct?
Yeah, it's just it's I don't want to be that guy to say like, oh,
I
it's
can't think of anything. I can't think of any
but
way to make the fast
I mean,
XO spam.
no, I can't
Yeah, I
either.
can't
I
either.
just think it's like it's just like all right, all right. I'm
But
just gonna say it. I think it's lazy and you just turn your brain off. And
don't
there's nothing wrong with that though.
no,
There's nothing wrong with that.
that's
But
great game design. It's like what are we
yeah, of course,
talking about
because
here?
you're making it work for
Yeah,
the player, which no problem.
it's not a skill check, it's a gear check. And that's great because how do I put this? Only 10% of the Paladin player base are actually skilled enough to pull off seal twisting under raid combat conditions. I'm not one of those 10%. Like even if I download the add-on, maybe I can get it to work like 90% of the time, but I will miss a considerable amount of seal twisting. So
Sure.
as a person who wants to be lazy and who likes to use his eyes and cleanse things and stuff, I prefer something simple and easy that gets me through the day, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But I also am 100% aware that a lot of people they want a skill expression in their class, and the only possible skill expression we can think of as paladins is seal twisting. And we're concerned that the set bonus will remove that. Here's another way they could do it, right? Now that I'm thinking about it, okay? What if your BIS DPS gear, it is not a part of the 6-set bonus from the tier set?
So like separate.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like PV, your BIS a DPS gear is like PvP gear, right? And so now
Okay.
you're not, yeah, and they're pushing the seal twisting meta, but you have two options. You can either wear the tier 1 set, which is not ideal, or you can wear this other gear that is better DPS, but suddenly you need to engage in the skill expression. That would technically work,
Mm.
right?
I mean, yeah, I could see that working too. I also like I've said this in my past VODs where like I was also really a big fan of what they were doing in phase 2 with the passive books. Like I was like I like the incentivization of making players want to go in dungeons and get those passive books to like, better blessings, better fortitude, better
Yeah,
intellect, you know
yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
And they kind of dropped that where I was like, well, I like this idea because I understand it's a retail thing. Once again, there's a lot of things inside from retail just in general, but I still like this idea where it's like, okay, these passive books are not taking up a rune slot. They're not taking up anything going on in your gear area. They're just somewhere on your book that says, okay, you got this from a percentage. So like, I wonder if they will ever I guess, fondle with the idea of like, okay, should we consider, instead of like, all right, this is just on the 6-piece set, or do something completely with a different tech, saying,
you'd
all
rather
right,
have a seal twisting libram kind of a deal.
yeah, whether maybe, or okay, even a good idea. I wouldn't even mind like a libram. Like you wear this libram and it benefits
Yeah.
like seal twisters.
Compared to
Like
the
this might,
plus 100 attack power libram, like that's
yeah,
your fucking trade
exactly.
off. Yeah.
And follow the same concept as you guys were saying, like don't like the 800 to 1200 like if you're seal twisting, or like 1000 naturally if you're just doing exo spamming, right? Whatever, we're just
Yeah.
using like a random number.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't mind that, because then it's like, okay, you give the option, it's much more flexible, everyone can play the play style they want. Because at the moment currently, just from like looking at like simcast, and like I was fucking around a lot with WoW Sims, so like not everything's set in stone. But one weapon that I think, because I just saw two, which they not only the Arcanite Reapers refined, but the Hammer of the Titans is refined,
Oh,
and that's at 2.0.
hell yeah.
And you slap Crusader on
We're
that,
fine. You mean Seal of
um,
Martyrdom? Yeah.
yeah, that's gonna be a nasty
Oh
Seal of
shit.
Martyrdom build.
Oh fuck!
Yeah,
I didn't think about Seal of Crusader and Seal of Martyrdom put together.
yeah.
Wait, what?
Just imagine the
What the
procs
fuck?
non-stop hitting, like
That's
for
just
exo spam users,
that's
they're
just
gonna be
40%
eating
haste.
for that. Yeah.
okay. So now what we need is Art of War to be 3 seconds for two-handed, and we're good to go.
And bear in
Alright.
mind as well, Seal of the Crusader increase your attack power too, which
Yes.
would then synergize with
Yes.
Sheath
Yes.
of Light.
Yes.
Exactly. And then on top of the fact that you get to put haste on the gloves, and then you get the Arkham of what is it, Rapidity for like your head slot that adds 1% haste to the leg or head. You're just you're just stacking, like for exo users, or just, well, I'll just say Seal Martyrdom users, we'll say that they're going to be eating. And from the comparisons, if a person goes with like a build with like refined Hammer of Titans, which is 2.0 for SOM users, they're going to be fucking eating, and they're probably going to be like most likely a high like number. I won't say how high, but I think it'll be 100 to 150 DPS higher than Hand of Rag users who are just doing seal twisting. So I don't think that's a bad overall, like, all right, well, damn, that sucks. But I would say like maybe like the idea we were talking about before, whether it's like a Libram or passive book, or maybe it's a separate gear piece as you were mentioning. I think that would maybe make the community be like, all right, well, we don't need this massive 25% buff. Because to be honest with you, you don't need a bigger damage buff for paladins. You don't need that. That's not what you need. And personally, I've heard the idea too. Another thing in the community where people are like, oh, well, should we consider looking at touching Seal of Command?
Who the
And
fuck,
I don't know about that
who
either.
the fuck are the apes saying we need a 25% damage buff?
No, I'm just I just, well, then again, the Paladin Discord, right? But I'm just saying, like, they they say a lot of things, right?
Okay.
But the one thing I've noticed is that they're speaking a lot most of the times, a lot of people are speaking out their ass, right? And it's normal, right? But I really feel like Paladins don't need any massive DPS increase. It's just like minor tweaks here and there, for like things that need to be adjusted, whatever. But
and at the end of the day,
that's about it.
At the end of the day, it's not really about. They're too focused on where they're at on the DPS meter, when really it's about making your game fun. And what's gonna
100%,
make your game fun is having multiple viable playstyles, and one of those playstyles being non-skill expression, while the other one is very skill expression, and for the skill expression to be roughly 10% more DPS. That's if you nail it 100% of the time, which you're not going to. So you might get like 80% of it. That's good game design. Bad game design would be, the only viable option is this option, and we just need to keep buffing its damage up for whatever reason. That would be terrible.
No, for sure. I was gonna ask you guys. I know you're gonna start talking about prot stuff, and I was just curious about this. How do you guys feel about improved sanctuary overall? What is like your genuine take on that?
Tareyak,
like, do you feel like
still with us? You haven't talked in a million years. Are you just like eating lunch or something?
Yeah, I'm still there. So like the improved sanctuary, like again, like it just kind of like adds that little bit of depth into the deep prop more so.
It's again, really a PvE ability, like outside of raid, I do believe.
Like don't get me wrong, you can throw it on and to fuck with rogues. Do you know what I mean? But like in terms of like the kind of the general kind of feel and style, it's like mainly like an AoE talent. But with all these buffs to block, and
Yeah.
like bear in mind,
Yeah,
paladins
yeah.
now have
Yeah.
60% extra block than
Oh
what they're
yeah.
saying, and then all
Yep.
these
Yep.
strength
Yep.
buffs
Oh
too,
yeah.
and all that kind of shit as well.
Oh yeah.
I do think that like that will come into the fold a bit more. Because again, like it increases damage prevented by
Yeah.
less sanction by
The
100%, which
only
again isn't that
thing
much, but an AoE it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
the only thing remotely making her even questionably bad. God damn, that's a word. Questioningly is the fact that she's opportunity costed against the other runes in the slot. Like that's
Yeah, like
Yeah, I
you're going
see.
against Wrath,
fanaticism,
which is like
And
right?
and fanaticism as well. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so the mechanics of Blessing of Sanctuary are as follows. She does reduce the damage you take before armor, which means that she's actually a lot better for two-handed builds, believe it or not, than she typically is for sword and board builds, which is kind of fascinating. But she also reduces damage so fucking much that you don't really notice. You know what I mean? It's just like, well, okay, well, it's like having a shield on when you don't have a shield on, at least under when you're fighting mobs.
Yeah.
When you put a shield on, you're not really putting on Blessing of Sanctuary for the increased damage reduction, even though it's nice. You're putting it on for the reflect damage predominantly. And the reflect damage from her is fucking insane. Especially if we're talking about having a holy shield that doesn't have any charges or doesn't have charge issues anymore. Like, that's the elephant in the room. Is right now, it's, I'm sure you've done sims on this, or you've just done the math about what that looks like reflect damage wise. In boss fights, it's like, cool, whatever. Who gives a shit? But if you're like the off tank, and here's my weird conspiracy theory, right? You'll notice that Blizzard went out of their way to make all the tanks able to tank area of effect. You notice that, right? Specifically, like 10 mobs at a time, right?
Yeah, they did it for so many classes.
Yeah. How much money do you want to bet me that a huge component to the future raids is going to be you need a fucking off tank to tank at, up to 10 fucking mobs at a time? How much you want to bet me?
If they were to change like a certain raid mechanic where like there's like a new boss mechanic to you need it like 10 ads.
Like you're fighting fucking Rag and he's spawning ads all over the place. You're fighting this guy, he's spawning ads all over the place.
I could see that.
Guaranteed they did that, and under those conditions, Blessing the Sanctuary is going to be Chad. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Rannick. Oh yeah, Rannicus for that.
I love that fight as an off tank. I love that fight because it's literally like I'm in my element.
That's gonna be, dude. For some, I cannot wait to see like people going back into ST with the 10 target like hittable thing. How easy a Rannicus is gonna be controlling those whelps and controlling those dragons because you could hit 10 targets. Like that fight's gonna be a joke, which was once like busted and now like.
Oh yeah, if you didn't have a paladin with you, it probably was a nightmare. We've never experienced it because we're paladins. You know what I mean? I'll tank the ads.
Because even as a shotgun, you have Purifying Power, which is like the Holy Wrath. That basically hits everything, so you can precast that as they're coming in.
Literally,
even like the fact that you have Holy Shock, Exorcisms, Avenger Shields now as well, you don't have to move.
Literally, what you do as a Holy Shock Paladin, if you AOE tanking is required, is you literally just put up Righteous Fury. You're like, click button, and your sheer amount of healing output will cause all the mobs to be like, I'm gonna fuck you up.
Definitely. Well. Like sometimes if I don't have, like, for whatever reason they're still on cooldown, it's like I'll literally just spam a seal or whatever just to get that base threat away from the healers, and then, like I said, because everyone else has salvation on them, and you have 2.3 multiplier on, and every single spell is counted as a holy spell. So even if you're blessing someone as well, that counts as well.
You just sit there, consecrate every now and then. You're like, I got it. Don't worry about it. Just keep me up. Keep me healed, boys.
Holy threat is so busted. It's so good. I've even noticed that. Like I remember like back in the like doing just like simple ret tanking where like even on the Warcraft logs themselves, the holy threat was so busted that they weren't registering people that were doing so much spamming with like exo and just like holy based abilities. They were misregistering people as tanks when we were like deep red. Well, it was so stupid.
I correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of those parsing websites, even for the tanks, they go off how much damage you're doing, not how much TPS you're generating. Correct?
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, and that's why I have an issue with Warcraft logs because
it's horrible.
I don't. First things first, like I'm not a fan of like the way they go about things with Blizzard's side of basing their data off of Warcraft logs. I don't like that. I don't think like
You
because like
mean
here's the thing, like there's other specs in
Blizzard
between.
basing their data off of Warcraft logs?
From what I've
Oh,
heard, and I've talked to like some people like
okay.
the WoWhead like
Yeah.
team as well. Like
In
like I have like
Blizzard's
yeah
defense, okay, in their
yeah.
defense, you would not believe how many semi-retarded animals tell me that my paladin tanking guides suck because they can't get a high parse with it.
Nah, yeah. See, and that's just stupid. That's stupid
Yeah,
thinking
and I'm
because
like,
the
yeah,
yeah.
you do more TPS, therefore you're doing your job. Shut the fuck up.
The problem see no see the thing is the problem with like parse Andes it's like the damage is like the only thing that matters and you can't take their
But
word
but
for everything
but
because
that's in Blizzard's defense
yeah
because they're the customer, and it's Blizzard's
yeah
job to make the customer happy. And what the customer wants is they want TPS and damage so they can fucking parse, and that's
no
Warcraft
I get
Log's
it yeah
fault. That's not Blizzard's
the one
fault.
thing no, yeah. The one thing I don't like
Yeah.
personally about Warcraft logs that also bothers me as a player is that they have certain specs on there, but they don't show all specs. So
Mm.
it's like they'll show you, okay, here's Tank Paladin, here's Retribution Paladin.
Mm.
What about the other versions of Paladin? Why are they not being like we don't see Shockinen on the meters anywhere?
Yeah,
The
that's
same
true.
thing goes for Warrior. Arms Warrior's nowhere in the meters
Yeah.
and this happens with other specs as well where it's like why are we not showing multiple versions of a rogue like they'll show rogue like just rogue straight up but then what
Um.
about the other versions of rogue I
Can
want to see the full data and they just don't show that.
can since I'm clueless on this, can you explain to me what the disadvantage slash advantage to all this is? Like they're not showing it, therefore the disadvantage is this. If they did show it, therefore the advantage would be this. What is the gain?
Well
What is the loss?
so like I'm trying to look at it from like an employee perspective from Blizzard.
All
If
right.
I am I guess I could say I'm going off a conspiracy here if they are using majority of their data, which I'm sure they are because there's a lot of data on that website. Whether it's here, hearsay, she say, whatever, it's
Mm-hmm.
still data on the site that's showing what people are doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it shows it based by their abilities. And I think like
Every
the
time,
advantage of it, it's
every time Sky does a video, where does he get his parses from?
Warcraft logs.
Oh, okay. All right.
100%.
Moving on. Moving on.
100%. Yeah,
Moving on.
100%.
So we're all getting our
Yeah,
data from
yeah.
Warcraft logs. Fuck
Yeah,
off.
yeah, everyone is, and everyone's getting their data off of Warcraft logs, and now they got Archon now, so you can check people's logs.
Oh, Jesus fucking
So
Christ.
good luck with that. But regardless of that, on a serious note, like yeah, like the advantage of it from what I see it as a perspective, it's like okay, us as a team at Blizzard, we get to see what classes are shining, what classes are not. How can we further look at our analytics
You
and
get
then
to
try to
you get to see
you
who's
know
shining DPS wise. That'll tell you
DPS wise,
that.
but like, but let's look at other things because
Okay.
it's like there's a
Yeah.
big meme even in the parse community where like
who
healing parses don't
yeah,
matter and all this other shit.
they're right. I was about to
Yeah,
bring that up. I'm like, who's cheesing the
yeah,
healing parses this week? Like, goddamn.
exactly. And like TPS is another thing. Like who's actually like a really good, just like who's holding the more threat per second as tanks, and let's look at the the measurements
Yeah.
from there. So I think the problem is that the disadvantages is like we don't get to see as a like if I'm working on the Blizzard employee team,
Mhm.
I'd be like, all right, these logs are good, but it's like we don't really get to see a lot of other fundamentals
Yeah.
between specs of classes, not the whole
I
class,
I
to
think
actually get a fair assessment.
I think the data is good if you're using it only for DPS.
For DPS, yes.
Yeah.
Just straight DPS, okay, I can agree with that because you could see, but there's just other factors
Yeah.
of the game itself where it's
Yeah.
like there's no
Everything
fair
else,
values.
yeah,
looking at it.
everything else, go fuck yourself. Those healing meters don't fucking matter.
Exactly.
There is no such thing
TPS
as
doesn't
TPS
matter.
meters.
Yeah,
They don't. I don't
does
think
not
they
matter.
have
Yeah.
TPS meters. Like Jesus Christ, I
Yeah,
couldn't
yeah,
find
and
one.
it's like exactly, and it's like that's why like for me it's like it's a hate and love
Mm-hmm.
situation for me when it comes to that website, and
Uh,
it's also
a
makes me
re-
concerned on how Blizzard goes off through
a
things. That's
really
all.
good metric to go off of by how good tanks are doing would probably be how many pulls did it take them to kill the boss, like straight up.
True.
You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
that
It's
is true
like,
too.
oh, is it taking like on average like 3 pulls with Warlock, but only like 2 pulls with Paladin? And fuck, man, Paladin must be doing something right over there. Maybe we need to
Yeah.
look at buffing Warlock. Like, what's going on here? And then they find out Warlock's like running out of mana halfway through the fight. Like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I just would really like to see a little bit more diversity in things on that website, so I can be like, okay, now I see improvements in areas where they were flawed in, and go from there. And then like also like I was saying before, like even if just DPS, right? Because DPS is good to go get the information from, but like once again, we just don't get to see like stuff like Shockinen, and like especially what we were talking about earlier, how if Shockinen is this elephant in the room, is Shockinen not only going to be really either busted in PvP, which I hope it's really good, but also
I'll talk about it in a second.
is it gonna be somewhat good in PvE? And I would love to see the measurements of that, because if Shocken is really good in PvE, then I'd be like, wait a second, I don't need to just do deep ret talk. I don't need to be like, okay, I could just do slow two-hander talk as well, besides Seal of Martyrdom or slow two-hander. But I would love to give deep Shocken a chance in PvE and be like, wait, these measurements are actually fairly valued, and the website gives a fuck, you know?
What's super nice about Holy Shock Paladin right now from a tanking perspective, and I'm sure Tareyak's going to agree with this 110,000%, is that we have dual spec, and the only specs we're going to really be taking are, we're going to have one Holy Shock Paladin build, and we're going to have one Holy Shield Paladin build. If a fight requires us to off tank, we can do either one of those just fine. We have the gear; it's no big deal. But if the fight does not require an off tank, and suddenly we're being pushed into a DPS role, Holy Shock is still, even though not top tier, probably middle of the pack DPS. Like unironically, am I right about that, Terry?
Even right now.
Yeah.
Even right now. Like before all these buffs to Holy Shock that's incoming, like I'm literally usually middle of the pack, and we speed run in my guild as well. You know what I mean? So like,
that's beautiful, because like my friend, one of my friends, his name's Nick. He does shocking. He just loves shocking, and like that's all he's been doing ever since. And even like through the beginning to where we're at now in the PTR, he still wants to do shocking. And so like I would love to like see just more like that. That's basically my thing. Is just the gripe. It's just we get to see more. That would love to see more data on it overall.
I'll do a video on the math, because it's a very math intensive conversation as to what exactly is going on with Holy Shock. Believe it or not.
Yeah. At least it's middle of the pack. Like there's those classes down there that like for example like Arcane Mage, where it's just like you can see they are just very
but he's saying
high.
middle of the pack before they got like 300 fucking holy damage
before the increase, right?
Yeah, before Shock and Awe, which is like, all right, pack it in, boys. Well, Holy Shock's gonna be like I did the math on it, and in PvP gear the thing is like 800 DPS. PvP gear, unbuffed, no raid buffs, no consumables, no world buffs. And I'm like, all right, what the fuck? Like, okay,
yeah, that's just a whole nother element of like surprise, man. That like just smack just 800 naturally without anything. It's pretty fucking nice.
It's
like just picture this in PvP, right? Like you're on your way to raid, and all of a sudden this fire mage is loading up a big pyro blast. You do the holy shot, you do your holy light to basically counteract that. So he hits you, you heal back with the full, and then you hit him with 2k, followed by another 2k. Good night, Chicago.
Well,
you know what I'm
saying?
Yeah.
All right, so what you're supposed to do is you go offensive with Holy Shock Paladin off of your big boy crit heals, because the fanaticism dot is ticking, and that lets you press W towards the enemy, and your health bar basically won't even move. You follow me on that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, because over the next 12 seconds, you're going to get like the 90% of a Holy Light crit heal. You got Sacred Shield rolling. You don't give a fuck. But with within an 8-second window of no, my bad. Within a 10-second window, is it 8 or 10? It's like within 10 seconds of being physically on top of somebody, you can do like 10,000 holy damage. I'm in PvP gear. This isn't PvE. This is PvP gear. The reason for this is because your Exorcism is doing about 900 damage. Your Judgments is like also doing like 900 damage. Holy Shock on average is doing 2 fucking K. That's because she likes to machine gun 70% of the time. You know what I mean? 70% of the time she's like, oh, let me get an extra pow on this enemy over here. Like, Jesus.
And because of Divine Illumination as well,
yeah,
like every 2 minutes you guarantee a crit.
Right, but how you're okay, right, but you're either using that for the Holy Light, to make sure it crits, or you're using that. You're not opening with that. You're using that after a crit, if that makes any sense. So you want to get a natural crit, and once you get the natural crit, that's when you consider using your free critical, because that's when you can at least shoot it 3 times, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, like I mean, just like from like a
get the
PvE
crits off.
perspective as a tank, you can always guarantee you're
Oh.
starting to pull with a crit into another holy shock.
Oh,
and then if
yeah,
that doesn't crit,
that
you're into
makes sense.
Exorcism,
That
Avenger
makes
Shield.
sense.
So
Oh,
by the
wow.
time the boss
Yeah.
gets to you, you already unloaded like
which is
10,
the complete
20 crit
opposite
straight
in
into the boss.
PvP, because in PvP you're looking for the natural one, so you know you can get 3 of them back to back.
Yeah,
But you're just looking for the
'Cause then it's
consistency of
huge
2
burst.
on the pull. Yeah, okay. No,
No, that's a lot of burst.
it's just nice that if you're not off tanking, you're a middle of the pack DPS, and that makes you tactically flexible like a motherfucker.
You don't have
Yeah.
to change gear. You don't have to do anything or change spec, and that's the
Yeah.
main thing for speed run, all that kind of shit as well. Like we're talking about, like with the gear swap macros, being able to swap in and out of runes too. Like that's going to be crucial for that. But yeah, like even when we're kind of talking about the red thing having a simplified rotation, like you're going to have holy paladins or tanks, let's say, that like want to switch to a DPS spec. Let's say Deep Prot isn't able to do that because a lot of it's reflect damage, like we said. Being able to switch into ret, or even the Shockedin as well. You have that natural kind of versatility where it's like you're not kind of like
You're talking
passing
about
time
Ret
in your speedrun.
Paladin, who also has Holy Shock backup, dual spec?
No, I'm talking about, let's say, Deep Pro having like that option
Okay.
where it's like a nice simplified DPS. Just to that
yeah,
point
yeah,
you were
yeah.
saying, Ron, a nice, like more simplified DPS role. Because like, let's say your main spec isn't damage, it's because for this particular boss we don't need the extra heals or the extra tank.
Yep.
Just do DPS kind of thing, you know.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you're a nice solid middle of the pack DPS, which to be honest is kind of fucking terrifying and a little broken. I want to pause for a sec and talk about I've been going down the rabbit hole of the drama that shamans are having being a hero spec in Season of Discovery so far. I've made videos bitching about it from the Alliance side. Talk to me about what the Horde players are complaining about as far as Shaman is concerned, because I think that's the even the worse on the Horde side. Am I making any sense? What I'm trying to say here is that Horde bitches about Shamans being overpowered, correct?
I think 100%. Yeah, a lot. I mean, I play both sides on the Horde and Ally, so from what I'm seeing is that at least from what I'm getting, at least Crusader Strike Horde, their biggest complaints is not more of like shamans, like, because they love their shamans in PvE. Like
yeah.
they love shamanistic rage, they love the mana values, casters love them.
we
like,
don't have to drink
obviously-
anymore.
Yeah,
Fuck
exactly. And like that was like a big. I've had a lot of arguments with shamans, but like constructive arguments, not like anything
but when
bad.
it comes to raid and they're losing their raid spots to a fucking shaman,
Yeah.
that's when, you know.
I think that's
yeah.
No, for sure. I could see that on the PvE side of things, of what maybe the Horde might not like about shamans is about that, because obviously they need their mana batteries, right?
Yeah.
But I think more on the Horde side of things is like obviously they just dislike paladins, right? Like they don't like the fact that we bubble go in their back end, nuke their healers. But that's something that's been complaining about, I think, since early phase 1 in general. I think on the Alliance side, there's a lot of things we hate about shamans.
The fact that
I'm not saying I personally hate them. I'm just saying like people dislike about shamans. You know.
No, okay, just. I just hate the fact that I can have like a 40-minute Warsong Gulch, and maybe I'll see the Horde have to drink 5 times. Like, god damn, you know what I mean? Like,
I mean,
do
no,
these
that
fuckers
is
ever
true.
have to drink? Like, what is this shit?
No, I think two
but
things.
They nerfed
well,
it. It
there's
used to be 10%. Now it's 5%. I did the math on it. It's fine. Everything's fine. I think the major issue is like in the raid slot category, because they are very much a more the merrier under raid conditions. Does that make sense? You're like, well, we got 5 shamans. That's the minimum. What if we have 10? Well, it just gets better. I recently made a video where I was eventually came to the conclusion that one way you could balance that is, while their shamanistic rage is on cooldown, nerf their chain healing, their area of effect healing by like 50 to 75%, somewhere around there, because that's why you're not bringing shit tons of holy paladins on the Alliance side, is because they're an infinite mana healer that has the best single target healer you could ever ask for, but they have no fucking AoE healing. So you literally take 4 holy
Yeah.
paladins, and then you take a bunch of priests because you need some good AoE healing to go with your single target healing. The problem with shaman is now they're also infinite mana, but they're also kind of Chad with the AoE healing, which is really, really bad if you stop and think about it. So at some point, it's just, like what raid turns down 10 shamans on the WoW side, on the Horde side?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you look at ST, the first ST raid, one of the fastest speed clears was majority shamans and like
Yeah.
1 or 2 mages. And it made sense because like shamans were just that strong for that particular case, but also isn't it is shamanistic rage? It's group based, right?
No, it's
depending.
raid.
It's raid wide.
Raid wide.
Holy that's fucking.
It used to be a rune. Okay, listen to this shit. All right, it used to be a rune. Okay, that wasn't really opportunity costed against fuck all in the slot. All right, that's the first thing to point out. So it used to be a rune, and it was on a 1-minute cooldown, and it was 10% of 75% of their mana bar raid wide. Okay,
Yeah.
following on that. So that's like 6,000. So if they had 6,000 mana and they pushed a button, everybody in the raid gains like 500 mana. They took it off of the rune tree, so now every shaman just has it. But they cut the amount of mana regeneration in half. I just did a video on it. The regeneration is fine. So, for example, a Ret Paladin using Seal of Martyrdom will give about 450 mana. Every this is assuming they're not world buffed or anything crazy like that, right? We'll give about 450 mana per minute. Whereas the new shamanistic rage cut in half will give literally half that. Like literally somebody at Blizzard's been doing math. But still it's raid wide. And so very quickly you run into a problem of the more the merrier. The more the merrier, because the more of these fuckers you bring, very quickly they start having infinite
The more mana adds up.
Yeah.
And the more damage that goes out because of just how things work,
Yeah. And also it's not anywhere near skill based, unlike Seal of Martyrdom, which is more of a PvP complaint than a PvE complaint. Because in PvP it's like, well, I gotta hit things to give people mana around me, and the shaman he could literally dismount, push button, remount, and give everyone around him like 500 mana. Fuck off.
No, yeah, their mana, the mana thing has been a big talk. Even Agron even talked about it for a while about like where are we heading to the future of where mana is at. There was a big debate, like I guess conversation, so to say, during phase 3. I remember I was talking with him, and it was very back and forth about like you gave like, because Seal of Martyrdom's been through a lot of like ups and downs. Like it was at 133%, or originally it was at what was the original percent back in the day of
10.
SOM phase? It was 10, right?
No, 30.
So then
30?
No, 30? I think it was like 30 or some shit like
30.
that. And then it went to 133, and now it's down to what, like 60 or 65 or something like that. So like we've been through ups and downs where it was like my raid was saying like, holy shit, bro, bring more paladins. And now that's the thing where it's like, okay, wait, we're just the shamans on the horde end. Bring more shamans. So it's like that's a concern that I have, like, with the future. It's like, why would you want to bring a paladin that it's not using SOM to help out your raid compared to a paladin that's not going to use SOM? You know what I mean? And it's like you need a paladin using Seal of Martyrdom because it's literally is helping all the other casters. But then it's like now I'm seeing the things they're doing with Holy now, where it's like, and in the 6-piece set with Holy, is that just group based for the heals, like group healing?
Yeah, it is, I think.
I wonder how that's going to play out.
Okay, let me point out something mathematically here, though. You're going to laugh your ass off when I tell you this, okay? What is it? Let's say you're a spellcaster in an alliance raid, okay? And you're spamming like a 2-second spellcast into a boss.
Yeah.
That Seal of Martyrdom paladin wailing on the boss might give you 500 mana a minute. His Judgment of Wisdom with the 2-set bonus, so it has 100% proc chance, will give you 2,700.
Wow.
Yeah, not even a fucking comparison. Now keep in mind, the shaman, when he push button, will give you about 250 per minute per shaman. Okay? So that's why you don't need to stack paladins in a raid. Now, okay, so here's the downside to all that, right? Is that Judgment of Light and Judgment of Wisdom It really only affects people that hit the boss. So healers doesn't affect
Melee
anywhere
range.
near as much as the melee doesn't give a fuck because they typically don't need mana.
Sure.
The caster DPS is like, thank God I'm bathing in mana. And the healers are like, well, we have like 4 paladins and they have like infinite mana. They don't. They're just spamming flash of lights. They don't give a fuck about hitting the boss. They don't need mana back, right?
Yeah.
So the only ones that can really benefit from that are like the priests that cast a bunch of AoE healings. They put up a bunch of bubbles and then they spend the time wanding the boss for some mana back. Like that's the Alliance lifestyle, and they're trying to replicate that on the Horde side with the shamans. But again, the problem there, I think, is the area of effect healing. I'm putting my money on the area of effect healing, is because, well, like again, imagine how fucked up it would be with Illumination if they gave paladins chain healing. Would you ever?
Wow.
Would you ever bring
No, that'd be crazy.
priests? Would you ever bring more than one druid? You just wouldn't do that, right? You just be like, we're
No,
stacking
yeah.
paladin healers, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
basically what's happening Horde side. Is they're like, well, this thing's already a Chad AoE healer, and the more of them we bring, the more mana everybody has. So, bleh, obviously.
No,
And
yeah.
they're also a caster range DPS, whereas the Ret Paladin isn't. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
No, yeah, they definitely have their advantages. I mean, I think what you were going back to a little bit earlier to rewind to that is like, is now at the point where shamans have reached that peak of, are we the hero class of Season of Discovery so far? Because I feel like shamans, have they start seeing the increase to their class being talked about more and more after phase 2?
No, I think, okay, so what I think has been happening is this, right? Alliance has been bitching to the high heavens this entire time that shamans are fucking broken 6 ways from Sunday. Horde doesn't give a fuck because they're only really broken in PvP. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In 20-man raid environments, it's still kind of disgusting, but the raids aren't super hard. There's no challenge mode theoretically, none of that crap. So they're not super stressed out to bitch about shamans. But suddenly they got spirit wolves and they got a bunch of other stuff, and now Horde are starting to pile on bitching about them. Because once you start talking about challenge modes, suddenly they start giving a shit whether they have a raid slot in a challenge mode or not. And as it stands right now, the answer seems to be no, because there's nothing stopping the theoretical stacking of shamans in raids. And then in PvP, you end up with a very similar situation due to serious ranking. So if you want to rank and you want to get your rank gear, you probably have to coordinate with at least a 10-man group of people in like a Warsong Gulch type deal, right? And they're going to look at the situation and be like, well, we're serious Horde players and we came to rank, so let's bring, 6, 7, 8 fucking shamans to the party. So they're worrying about their raid slots. They're worrying about their rank slots. I don't know this for sure. This is just me theorizing. What I do know for sure is that whenever there's a post about shamans or shaman nerfs, or there's a tweet about it, it's always in response to Horde bitching, not Alliance bitching, which I find fascinating. So I think the Horde have picked up bitching. Sky plays a shaman, and even he has mentioned to me before that people are bitching about shamans. Even he didn't like how much mana that they were getting back from Shamanistic Rage back when it was 10%, not 5%. So I'm just like, damn, what the fuck's going on over there with those guys? Okay, fine.
No, yeah, I've talked to him too, and he wants more love for two-hand enhanced instead of just pure focus on elemental.
Right. And that would be equivalent to us wanting 2 different play styles, one being skill expression, one being like full retard, yada yada yada.
Yeah, I think that's where where the gap comes at the end of the day. Like, I think 2 things. One, by default, when 2 sides start bitching now, where it's like originally it was the Alliance, right? And now the Horde is starting to jump on it. It's going to show that if there's an elephant in the room, you're going to say, okay, there's something in the room, right?
Yeah.
So obviously there's no more if, ands, or buts. There's actually something to talk about here, and there's a situation with one particular class. So to people to say like, oh no, they're not the hero class. Oh, they're not this at all. They're not this at all. And I'm not trying to hate on the person enjoying your class by no means, but if something is a factor, you have to put that in the limelight. I'm sorry. Like,
No.
I don't want to be that asshole, but I'm going to call you out and say it is.
More
And it's the truth.
importantly, there are ways to nerf said hero class that maintain them as a hero class. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
of course.
So
Like, yeah, like nobody wants to ruin the fun for them. I'm not saying like, yo, shit on your class, bring them down to zero. No, but let's get things more in balance with the scales.
Yeah, it's literally like they're too good. Their healing is too good. Their DPS is too good. They give everybody a bunch of mana. Okay, what don't we like about it? Okay, well, these are the problems in PvP. These are the problems in PvE. There are easy nerfs to solve these problems that literally do not nerf the shaman other than to target the issue directly. Like I said, if Shamanistic Rage is on cooldown, your AoE healing goes to shit. Now keep in mind, it's a minute-long cooldown. That technically fixes the fucking problem. Because now you're discouraged from taking too many fucking shamans to the raid, because you want them using the mana recovery ability, but you also need AoE healing, and it's going to nerf their... You got the exact same thing the paladins have to deal with, right? It's 4 fucking holy paladins and then a bunch of priests and like 1 druid. And that's specifically because paladins have infinite mana. They even give the raid a bunch of mana back, but dear fucking god, can they not AoE heal to save their goddamn lives? Literally, the spell doesn't exist anywhere in our toolbook.
I think, at this point, the rune system itself and how they're going about, where we go up and down on the shaman class has made it a problem for them over there at the dev team to be like, all right, listen, like, we know for the past couple phases, like, you guys have been fucking oppressive in PvP. They even said it in their dev notes.
Yeah. So literally,
on the thing. So it's like,
I don't know what your thoughts on this, but my thoughts on this watching Shaman, because again, I actually do make Shaman PvP guides, and I do Moonlight as Shaman in Classic WoW expansion. Like, I make SOD Shaman PvP guides. I've made at least 1, maybe 2. I don't know. Sky asked me to make one, so I made one. I think Blizzard literally didn't give a flying fuck about PvP balance until literally the end of Phase 3. Like, that's what I saw, right? Remember, we were all getting bursted out the ass.
Yeah, I could see
Starfall was still like, 1,000 damage, push button. Chimera shot was blowing us the fuck up. All right. So now suddenly they give a shit about PvP balance. And they've been switching the runes around with Shaman just fine. Everything's fine with Shaman, honestly. They've nerfed numbers a lot. I noticed that looking at Shaman. So, for example, Lava Burst used to have something stupid, like over 100% spell power ratio, if I recall correctly. Now she's down to a reasonable, 60% spell power ratio. Thank fucking God.
Okay, 40% nerf. Yeah.
Well, more like 2/3 nerf, but like, who's talking?
Right, true.
The point is, everything's been brought down to a reasonable spell power ratio. There's damage reductions in the game. The only problem with them right now in PvP, honestly, is they still have the infinite mana thing. But that's an easy fix if they're like, oh, push button and it's not 75% anymore. Push button and it's like 50% or some shit like that, or make it a 2-minute cooldown. And double how much mana they give in raid. I don't fucking know. But right now, like you even saw in the duel I had, right as it was being interrupted, my boy regenerated 75% of his mana. If he just healed himself, I can't kill him. He can't kill me. Yeah. I can't kill him. We just look like 2 retards trying to have sex here. Like, what are we doing?
I wonder how so like with the Shakanen changes, like Tar, like what do you think, like how Shakanens would fare off against like the Shaman class? Like, do you think that's like a one-sided matchup in PvP, or do you feel like there's a little bit of even ground since you both can like kite each other technically, right?
Yeah, like with these both people, it puts us kind of like, it gives us that kind of like elemental shaman role.
Yeah, it makes us a fucking shaman. Unironically, yes, the Holy Shock Paladin is a fucking shaman. Bitches are gonna learn today. Bitches are gonna learn today.
Eye for an eye.
Yeah.
So like the shaman critting you is actually doing more damage to them.
Yep. No, it's actually disgusting. Did either of you watch me getting blown up by my druid friend on the PTR?
Yeah, I saw that.
Playing Holy Shock. Did you watch what happened to him when I turned and I went offensive? and his health, because he's sitting there with like 60% life left from Eye for an Eye. Assuming I don't blow up, because I don't have, I'm just gonna blow up because I don't have enough HP. But I would turn on him and I'd go after him, and he would just fucking melt. And I wasn't even playing good because I was using Seal of Martyrdom and not SOR. He should have just exploded if I had played better. But no,
he was feral, right?
Like
no, he was a
but you have the
okay.
You have the exorcism into the Avenger Shield to slow them down. They have to deal with that slow, otherwise you're just going to catch them. And then, but once you get into 20-yard range, it's holy shock crit, holy shock.
Yeah,
again.
so
like,
so the first problem is you're making your move off of the crit heal, right? So even if they are pumping damage into you, it's not really going to do anything. You're not going to notice. You're using your spells primarily to cause spell pushback. So if they stand their ground, they start trying to cast spells, you're like, here, have an exorcism, have a holy shock, have some judgments, have an Avenger Shield. You're just like, Jesus fucking Christ. Eventually you get on top of them. If you're using Divine Steed, it makes it infinitely easier, right? You're just like, haha, I'm on you now. But it's the fact that your DPS at a 20-yard range is still absolutely fucking terrifying. And that's what we mean by when we say you're basically a fucking shaman. You're this like mid-ranged fucking range class that can press W a bunch of the time. The only thing that even remotely holds you that keeps you in check as a Holy Shock Paladin is if the enemy is doing so much DPS to you that you're forced to use Holy Shock defensively. You're forced to stop and heal yourself. You're basically like heal locked, which was what was happening to me a lot of the time. But like I was painfully aware in the dueling videos, if I actually had more HP, it would force him to use more GCDs to try to kill me. I would start catching holy lights, and he's just going to die horribly every single time. So I was looking at that duel and looking at the future and going, this is really good. This is a good place to be because it means he can kill me, but in the future it's going to be I'm going to have the advantage. Yada yada yada.
Which is what you want, because shamans typically like right at the start of max level, like they're really powerful and they slowly get worse as warriors, paladins scale harder.
Yeah, it's because their mana regeneration is all front loaded like a motherfucker. Like within the first 1 minute 30 seconds of fighting them, they have like 250% mana. Which means they have enough mana to both heal themselves and go DPS hard on you all at the same fucking time. Whereas if you wear them down a bit, they have to start making hard choices. And that's when Holy Shock can suddenly switch into like offense mode. I don't think Holy Shock is good if you're not Shock Eye. What do you think, Tareyak?
Yeah, 100%. Because like the whole thing about the shocking is because you're going to be going into intellect and spell power, all that kind of shit. It's like you're basically, your strategy is like you were saying there, describing it's like just heal, and then eye for an eye is eventually going to get them down.
Yeah, literally just let eye for an eye. Eye for an eye, it acts like reckoning in the sense that your healing is not a waste of your time.
And then when you look at melees as well,
your healing
always have the advantage over melees because you have such high armor with the shield plate plus the shield. So like I said, you can literally fuck with warriors where you're literally kiting them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So your only weakness is spellcasters, and then eye for an eye is basically reckoning for spellcasters. It literally means that while you're even mages fucking hate eye for an eye. Holy shit! I bet.
Oh yeah. I love using against specifically mages. It's like one of the most satisfying feelings when they think they're about to get this big nuke off, and then you just see literally like 60% of their health bar just drop, and then they're like, "What hit me?" I'm like, "Bro, check the combat log."
Yeah.
Check what happened to you, bro.
It's just so bad.
It's such a satisfying feeling. But I feel like that fight now between Shocken and Ellie, where because I mean, at the end of the day, paladins and shamans were so close to each other more than we think, and like and we're aware of that,
we're literally the inverse. We're the inverse.
Exactly, we're literally just the inverse, and I like that. That's why I dig the shaman concept. I think two-hand enhance is badass. I like that. That seems really fun. And now that the fact that they're trying to give more support to Shocken to answer where the elementals are at on the horde end, it's gonna be a very interesting fight, especially in PvP, where now a Shocken is not, or sorry, a shaman is gonna be surprised, like, damn, why is this paladin not coming up to me? You know what I mean? Like I'm putting all my totems down, yada yada, and now you're stacking your fire resist. and you're waiting them for to hit you hard, so your eye for an eye can proc, and then you're gonna hit them with a holy shock, and that's on top of like just any util options. But like, I think that type of gameplay now is gonna be very interesting from a ranged paladin and a ranged shaman. And it's like I really want to see that more, whether an AV or whatever,
Holy Shock, unironically, is now the gold standard PvP paladin. Shockeye, specifically, is now the gold standard PvP
Shotgun, yeah.
paladin that you're going to compare every other paladin to. Now, unironically, the other paladins in the future are also going to be really fucking good, believe it or not. But for different reasons and in different ways. Holy Shock Paladin she's just a solid fucking animal. That's the only way to describe it. She's a fucking animal. She's like, but she can't do, how do I put this? Her only weakness is she can't do both things at once. She's like, well, I can heal myself like a god, or I can go DPS like a god. My middle ground stuff isn't all that powerful. But the other paladin specs are also still on the radar because Reckoning is still Reckoning, right? Like Jesus fucking Christ. And then Repent is still absolutely amazing. Deep Rep Paladins are still absolutely terrifying. I mean, you start giving Deep Rep Paladins like instant push button, instant auto attack. They're going to do good. But Shockeye is just, she's just sitting there like, bruh, come at me, bro. So I was like, oh,
if you were to have to
hunters.
Hunters?
Hunters.
Probably. Yeah, because they'll be able to play around with that 30-yard range.
True. Okay, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And keep you in that 30, because
yeah,
they can just keep instant casting.
Right, but at the same time, how do they kill you?
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's the only counter I can think of. Is hunters,
it's not a counter if it's a draw. It's like, what is, okay, let's say a druid stays beyond 30 yards and keeps like starfalling you and dotting you up. Okay, cool. How does he kill you? Oh, he can't. Okay, cool. It's a fucking draw. It's not a counter if it's a draw. I'm just saying.
Yeah, because like that's what I'm thinking. Like hunter, because it's physical, so they can bypass the eye for an eye.
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah. But
that's the only thing I'm thinking.
They still have
like
mana issues over time, which is fine. They can't use their pet on you because you'll just mana vamp off it like a motherfucker. They're just gonna pew you until they run out of mana and be like, all right, well, I'm gonna leave now. It's like, okay, bye. That's
the thing. We have Steed now as well, but I have to pop off now because I've got another pod coming up. But like I said, this has been an amazing episode. You guys need to do more content together as well. These chats have been amazing. But like I said,
apparently we'll have
Countdown Classic as well.
Yeah, apparently we still need to have that PvE conversation. Jesus. Is there anything... Okay, so before you take off anytime soon, is there anything that's kind of need to know about Paladin tanking right now? I can't think of anything.
You can't go wrong.
Yeah,
because it's literally deep prot. You're covered. If you want to spice it up and go shotgun,
yeah, it's literally like dual spec, and I'm sitting here like, okay, well, you can take the gear and you have the talent points, so I mean,
yeah. So like, if you want to go strength and attack power, just go deep prot. If you want to go spell power, do the shotgun, and then from there, just remember that gear swap macros means you can change your runes instantly. So even like the opportunity cost, like for let's say Malleable Defender, if you really needed it for a particular fight,
that's only if you're interested in like speed runs or some shit like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because in your average guild, you'll have the 3 seconds to
right.
Change all that kind of shit.
I've been thinking about it. It's like if you make tanking guides, they're literally just going to be about your rotation, and then how to like pull. It'll be far more specific. Like, how do I tank this boss as a paladin? You know what I mean? Not really, okay, am I going spell power or am I going attack power? Like, what are we doing here? The answer is literally like, well, you can just have the gear and we'll let you know in the future once we see the bosses what you're supposed to be doing.
Exactly. And like even with the prot as well, they have tools to put threat into a target on pull, so they don't have to rely on the reflect damage as well. So they've basically kind of like covered off the weakness where it's like Holy Shield's main weakness is its reflect damage, which I already have to have threat to do threat on it.
Okay.
Whereas now they have exorcism, Avenger Shields, hammer.
A really good question just came to my mind. Who's the better tank? Well, okay, that's not a good idea. Fuck. Who is the better TPS if you are forced to wear heavy resistance gear for whatever reason?
Hmm.
I'd say it probably would be Shocking because again, like I said, with all the block value and all the stuff that you'd probably rely on.
Yeah,
You,
I guess literally like butt naked, she's still running around with like over 500 spell power if you stop and think about it, like mathematically.
mm-hmm.
She's just like, yeah, well, Shock and Awe is like 250, and fucking Judgment of the Crusaders like another 200, and we still have raid buffs, right? Oh, okay. It's like Jesus
I mean,
Christ.
yeah, I could definitely see that, especially now with like, if depending on like if the exo spam tank paladin is now, since like Art of War, it obviously is not phase 3 Art of War no more. So like I can definitely see Shocking being an edge over TPS over exo spam paladin with tanking. I could see that.
I have
For
no
sure.
idea. I just don't crunch the numbers, so I have no fucking clue.
Well, that's going to be the next video then, Paddy time.
Oh,
Get
Jesus
the calculator
Christ.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Oh,
sir.
I don't want to.
Get
No.
to the data, brother.
out. 100%.
Oh.
But like I said, guys, I got to pop off.
All
As
right.
always, there's Vault.
Yeah, take it
I'll
easy.
see you
The
later,
the
boys.
data says
Much love,
SOR
amigo.
doesn't give a fuck. All right, later, man. Ugh. All right,
No,
cool.
that was great, man. That was great, dude.
I'm still recording. You got any questions you want to ask me before we end the video?
Oh. No, man. Honestly, no. I think
We're just
the
shooting the
final note, what I
shit
want
on
to say
Paladin
is,
stuff.
no, I feel you. I mean, the final note I would say is like honestly, um, to be like I've learned so much like from you and like Tar and a whole bunch of other people as well, and I've even spoken with McConnell and shit, and like
Mm-hmm.
just honestly, like I'm very happy to be part of the community. At the end of the day, I know the Paladin, like obviously she needs like tweaking here and there, but I think at the end of the day, as the further we go into the phases, the biggest thing that I agree with you about is that come end game sod, the Paladin's going to be in a place where I think heads will cool down and people will be like, okay, wait, we're finally at the place I think we wanted to be at. And I think with the sod team and how they're interacting with the community and always giving us feedback and discussing things, thank God they've been doing that more often than not, because obviously phase 3 was like long overdrawn. I think the Paladin, there's a good future ahead, and I'm just going to be very optimistic about it and how they handle Shockedin, how they handle Deep Prot, and of course how they handle Deep Ret.
I wanted to ask you what you think about the challenge mode, especially the reward system of more gear drops, but not better gear drops in the challenge mode, because that's literally what I advised Blizzard a while ago.
So my thing is this: I am not a fan of hard mode content
Mm-hmm.
in this version of WoW. I don't think it
Okay.
should exist personally. I know Simon Eyes covered a topic about
I
him
agree
not liking
completely
the.
with that until I turn and I look at 30% of the player base tell me they want it, and then I also
Yeah.
know that 10 oh, no, how do I put this? Of that 30%, only 10% of them are going to be happy with it.
No,
You
true,
know what I mean?
and
I want challenge mode
of
until it
course,
rips your
of
dick
course.
off. Yeah, okay.
Exactly. And then here's the thing. It's like you can't ever please the masses, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
Season of Discovery has pushed the envelope of like how much we can actually discover versus how much we're actually re-implementing from retail expansions, right? So it's like we're at the point now where it's like if you want to add a hard mode to a game that never really needed that, and that's not what the concept of like overall having fun is. For some people it is,
Mm-hmm.
but that's just basically saying what we've went back to in old Blizzard conferences all these years ago when Blizzard, like those devs where they were like, oh, you think you want it but you don't.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like now we're at the point, it's like, guys, like what are we doing here? Do we just want retail at this point, or do we actually want some type of Season of Discovery where we've never seen these used assets before,
Yeah.
maybe actually really
Yeah,
cool
yeah.
revamped dungeons,
Li-
revamped areas? Like,
it,
come on now.
it is fascinating to watch the WoW community in concerns with Classic Plus, right?
Of course, yeah.
When people were like, "We want Classic Plus," I swear to God, I could be wrong about this. I think I want to say 90%, but I'll say 80% for the sake of safety. 80% of the classic WoW player base, literally, this is all they meant. Okay. Yeah, those unused zones like Ajara, can you like fill them out with stuff? And we'd like to see some new raids with like more Nax level gear. Maybe the slightest tweaks to a class here or there that are having like mana efficiencies in raid like Boomkin, and like that's it, done, dusted.
Yeah.
Take my money. kind of a deal. But instead, here we are, and we're doing basically a classic WoW retail electric boogaloo.
Exactly.
I don't
Yeah.
mind it. It's fine. But how do I put this? There's no reason why in Season of Discovery you can't have your cake and eat it too. And having your cake would be, all right, fine, I'll deal with this stupid fucking rune system that should belong in retail. I'm actually, I don't mind it. I'm actually kind of digging it. As long as it's balanced, I dig it. No, don't get me wrong. It's been growing on me over this last, 6 months. But the fact that we still don't have a revamped Ajara, we don't have entirely new zones, we don't have a new raid, new dungeons, I'm just like, okay, we got revamped dungeons. Technically we got new raids if you want to think of it that way. Nomergon was a new raid. That's kind of a new raid. They're more like dungeons than raids. But you get the idea. I think what you really want to see is more big boy raids and more zones, right?
Yeah, I mean, like actual things to discover. It's something I've been fighting for a long time. Like, I mean, and I talk about, like, I remember I used to do these videos where I would walk through Azeroth and I would just say, like, man, like, imagine if like we had like this crazy new version of Dead Mines, but it's still Dead Mines. It's still classic. It's nothing crazy.
Yeah,
Like the loot's not like out of this world, but like
even an upgraded level
just
60 Dead Mines would be fucking nuts.
yeah, but just like something cool, like like all the areas that we love to explore, both Horde and Alliance End. And it's like, don't get me wrong, like I kind of like the idea of like you placing runes and quests in different areas, and then the Horde and Ally bump into each other. You never know the altercation. Most of the times, it's just you getting jumped by 60 Horde, and that's fine, right? But it's like, I just, that's what I'm yearning for still, and I'm keeping my hopes up to see what they're doing with this next phase, and as far as the the Demon Fall area, as far as what that new dungeon is supposed to be. I hope it's something cool, because if that is something that's like, wow, like, yo, come the 11th and we explore it and it's like fucking badass, then yo, like, let's do more of that. But I am keeping my optimism very low, my expectations very low, because it's just one new raid boss in MC, the heat variation, which
Hard
I
mode,
think
yeah.
honestly is just, it's, I think from what I'm getting at and what I've been hearing from people and stuff, that it's just basically have more fire gear resistance.
Yeah, probably.
That's all it is. It doesn't seem like nothing is crazy changing besides whatever this one new boss is. And I don't know what it is. I mean, I'm
My
completely
my
unaware.
best
So
guess would be boss might have one more mechanic. That mechanic might be something as simple as, oh, you need an off tank or two now because there's a bunch of fucking ads all over the place. And oh, by the way, there's
yeah,
like area of effect fire damage. Everything's fucking firemaw on this bitch. It's like, okay, I'm down. That's not the worst
yeah.
thing in the world. If you make it just a gear check, okay, so when I say challenge modes in classic World of Warcraft, in my brain immediately goes to this. All right, if you make a challenge mode that only 10% of the player base can complete, that's probably bad. If you make a challenge mode
True.
that 50% of the player base can beat, that's probably good. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
If
I
it's
agree.
if more than 50% can achieve it, it's probably bad. If less than 50% can achieve it, it's probably it's getting worse. If that makes any sense. So
No, I
if it
agree.
comes
Yeah,
out and it's only like 30% of the player, so in my brain it's like, if all it is a fucking gear check and your ability to fight while being greatly reduced in gear efficiency, I'd be happy with that, because at least that means that the vast majority of the player base can actually get the gear and then go do the raid, trivialize it basically. Uh,
no,
yeah,
I can agree with that. No, because I think like at the end of the day, like there's like something
and
like your
and
basic say is like,
and
no, go ahead, go
and
ahead.
I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure they said heat modes, meaning more than one.
Yes, heat mode. Yeah, 3 modes. So 3 heat modes,
Yeah,
and you could switch if you're having issues with, like, let's say heat
yeah.
3. You can vice
Yeah, yeah,
versa
yeah,
switch to heat
yeah.
2,
And
heat
so
1, and
I
still do the
yeah. So
raid.
I will clap my hands for that. That sounds amazing, because
No, yeah, that sounds good.
right. So if Heat 3 is only 10% of the player base, I'm down. If Heat 2 is 50% of the player base, then good game design. bravo.
No, yeah, exactly. And like I don't mind them, my biggest fear with this was that they were gonna lock like better loot
Yeah.
behind
Yeah.
Heat 3 and gatekeep, and that's something they even admitted to, and they even put this on a post. Like they
Yeah, don't
didn't
do
want
it.
to gatekeep
Yeah,
people.
no.
They've even said this in their video too, that they don't want to gatekeep people because they feel like that's not what classic WoW or this version of SOD in general, just like this is not their intention, their design philosophy, right? So they don't want to do that. And I think that's a good decision. Just, yeah, have more loot drops if you're able to do Heat 3 and everybody gets geared out rather than just
Yeah.
Heat 1 where it's like, oh, only a couple people might get geared out
Literally,
and vice versa.
yeah, literally good game design, okay, in an MMORPG
Exactly, yeah.
is no, I'm saying it comes in this form, okay?
Oh,
Good,
okay.
good game design always comes in the exact same form in an MMORPG, and it is as follows. Number one, identify something that is going to make a percentage of the player base happy. Okay? Be that PvPers, PvEers, explorers, fucking parsers, whatever the hell it is, right? It's like, oh,
Yeah.
we're going to do this that'll make this group happy. Then what you need to do is find a way to make that group happy while pissing off as few other people as possible. Ideally, you piss off nobody, right? You just give it to them. It doesn't make anybody else unhappy. You follow me on that?
Mm.
So,
yeah, no, I agree.
Right, and we've had people saying they want challenge modes, they want challenge modes, they want challenge modes. So then the question becomes, okay, well, how do we give people challenge modes while at the same time pissing off less people than we make happy and only mildly pissing them off? Like, Asmongold doesn't like the fact that there's going to be different challenge modes in the game. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
so
I saw his point of view.
He's part of the crew that is not happy with the idea. That's fine. He said that it should be cosmetic, but even he wasn't really bitching about the. He was not complaining about the reward system so much as he was complaining about he wants a shared experience. Like, oh, I beat the Molten Core, I beat Blackwing Lair, therefore, blah, 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 blah. Which I agree with that
No,
assessment.
yeah,
I agree with that assessment completely, but there's no way to get that assessment, to get Asmongold what he wants without pissing off the people who want challenge modes. And I think Blizzard made the right decision, and they're like, well, I think Asmongold might be at most 5% of the population, and the challenge mode guys are like 30%. So
no, for sure.
And he's not that upset about it. He's like, oh, I don't think I'm shared experience.
No, yeah, I agree. I think he had a good take on it. I mean, at the end of the day, like we all love this version of WoW because it's simple to play. And yes, it has its complexities, and especially if you're more into the PvP side of things, we have all our theories and takes on how going versus this versus that, and there's like 1,000 ways to go based off of things like how you want to go about it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the beauty of classic WoW is that you can literally pick your difficulty setting at the class menu.
Yeah. No, that is true.
Like, unironically, oh, you want to be a DPS rogue? That sounds like, fuck. You know what I mean? That sounds like kind of hard. I don't know about you, but that sounds hard. You want to be a main tank?
100%.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
You want to be like the easiest one-button spec that ever fucking lived? Play a Frost Mage or a Holy Paladin. Like, no one's going to complain about it. You know what I mean?
No, of course. I agree with you.
Menu.
This goes into a further depth of like even thinking about how we were talking about earlier when we were talking about like seal twisting and stuff, is like how it being a skill thing, how like skill is reward, and that's the same thing of like learning your class. This is a problem I had with a lot of people when with my guild when people wanted to join and like they wanted to be a part, and I was like, the problem is like the difference between some people and like this rogue versus that rogue is this rogue knows how to play his class. This rogue is still learning his class. He's overcoming the difficulties and the complex rotation of how do you pump out this much damage. And that's why you see like other people like, like yourself, like you've been doing Paladin guides for years, and like you've been on the ball with it. And the thing is, it's like, the ins and outs of the Paladin when it comes to what you should be doing and what you should not be doing, and why other Paladins are not doing the right thing because they're simply not getting the information from the right people, or they're not, and their guides are incorrect. And this happens.
Also, I'm playing a class in World of Warcraft, and this is number one reason I love Paladin in PvP. Some people want a class in PvP where it's a skill-based class and they can have skill expression. They want to kill you by being the better player, right? More accurately, pushing buttons really, really good. Okay, Rogue comes to mind with that. Like, good luck playing a fucking Rogue without a bunch of add-ons and macros and shit. I still don't know how people play fucking Rogues at the highest level. Jesus fucking Christ.
It's very in depth, and I think Warriors are another class like stance dancing
God
too.
Damn, yeah, Jesus.
That was my original main back in the day. Was a Warrior. I played deep arms.
The skill level, the skill cap on that thing is ridiculous.
Exactly.
Then you come to Paladin, which is why I play Paladin, and that is mechanically, you can be a fucking ape and still play this class pretty goddamn well. But intellectually, she is so deep, if that makes any sense. Top tier Paladins don't kill you mechanically; they kill you intellectually. And that's what that's what I love playing about that class. And then you have classes that are kind of in between. Like Druid is a skill-based, both and an intellectual class, all at the same time.
Yeah, I like Druids a lot.
Oh yeah, good stuff. Shaman can go either way. You can go full retard with Shaman and do just fine, or you can get like really, really fucking technical and look at what's going on underneath the hood. Realize that, like I made a whole video on Blizzard nerfed it. Okay, so when I made my Shaman guide, listen to this shit, all right? So when I made my Shaman guide, I pointed out that even as an elemental Shaman, you should be taking Maelstrom, all right? Because what Maelstrom does is if you have, let's say you have one charge of Maelstrom, okay? It doesn't reset your auto attack if you cast a spell. Does that make any sense? Like, as a paladin...
No, I'm with you.
Yeah. So, what this means is, rather than waiting for 5 stacks of Maelstrom in order to cast a spell, you'll get like 2 or 3 stacks of Maelstrom, and then you'll just go for a spell cast. And it'll make the spell cast like 1.2 seconds spell cast time. And it's just overpowered and broken as hell if you really think about it. Blizzard nerfed it in the PTR. I thought that was actually absolutely funny. Like, no, stop that. That's bad. But the tanks were doing it, right? They would take Maelstrom and they start tanking with it, and so they get like 2 charges of Maelstrom and they like shoot out a chain lightning that's like a 1-second cast or whatever the fuck, like blah or some shit like that.
Yeah, chain lightning's crazy.
Yeah, I don't really know. What was I trying to say here? Right, so in Classic WoW, you get to pick your playstyle and you get to pick your difficulty setting literally at the class menu.
I agree. Yeah. This happened with me in Hardcore too. Like, Hardcore made it very crucial when I was playing then. Like, picking your class mattered, like 100%.
Which is why, if I could for every class in the game, I would want them to have a Classic WoW Andy build, right? Like, does about 1,000 DPS. A brain dead monkey could play it. Meanwhile, there's the more skill intensive version of that same class, but it only does like 10% more DPS. That would be the ideal state for every class in the entire game, in my opinion. But it doesn't change the fact that if you're playing a rogue, you probably picked a skill-based class, homie. I don't know what to tell you, because you're like you're a DPS only class. It's not like you're gonna have a 1-button healing rotation you can fall back on. Yeah, maybe they could make them a brain dead tanking class. Yeah.
Very possible. They might be a really good off tank come MC. I don't know about main tank, but we'll see. I'm very curious about that.
No matter how you look at it, though, the Blizzard team is doing a really good job. When I look at things in totality, they have, no matter how much you hate Season of Discovery or you hate the Blizzard team, you could at least at a minimum say they have a 60-40 hit or miss. They're hit 60% of the time and they're miss 40% of the time. And
I agree. I can see that.
That's actually a really good ratio in game design, believe it or not. It's hard to do better than that.
I mean, also plus with the manpower that they had. You got to think about it like that too.
Yes,
we're not talking about they have an in-depth 30, 40, 50 person deep team. Otherwise, we would never have to go through the shit show, in my opinion, what was Kata, which I think was a a major problem, and that's something that I'm still saving on until
Yeah.
that video. If I have to put out that type of video one day, which the doom of Sod, like I'm not, I don't want to do that video because I want Sod to, be amazing.
Yeah.
I want
I,
everybody
I
playing Sod,
I was wondering about that.
but
I was wondering about that when you were saying you wanted more things in Season of Discovery, because my brain immediately was like, well, in theory, it's the easiest layup in the world to just give us more revamped zones and more dungeons. Easiest layup in
no,
the
yeah,
world. But
no, yeah, exactly.
they
Yeah.
need like another 20 guys on the team to make that layup a reality. You know what I
Eh,
mean? If not more like
yeah,
50.
exactly.
So it's
No,
like,
for sure. No.
um, honestly, if we actually do get Classic Plus, like let's say we get a Classic Plus a year from now, I think Season
Mhm.
Discovery is not going to be a year long. I think it's going to be about a year and a half, to be perfectly honest with you. Maybe even 2
Yeah, and
years
some change, and
of a
some
life
change. Yeah,
cycle.
I
Yeah,
can
yeah,
see
yeah.
that.
But if Classic Plus comes out and then that's when they're saving the easy layup for, I'd be happy. Or
Yeah, I'd be
yeah,
happy. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure. Because
or
like at
yeah,
the end of the day, like War Within's coming out, we obviously know people are going to be going there, right?
yeah, yeah,
But after Sod is done in its phases, if that's what they're going for, then you know what? I'll take it. I'm not going to complain about it.
yeah. Also, they've been doing a really good job on the itemization. They haven't been fucking it up too terribly bad. That was one thing that I was really worried about going into Season of Discovery. I'm like, it'll
Yeah.
be so easy for them just to solve their problems by going, you know what, this piece of gear, it has 20 stamina on it. Let's make it 40. And I'm like, oh my soul. Like, what are we doing? But they didn't do
Yeah.
that, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I took a glimpse of some of the itemization in Strat and Skolo, and I was like, all right, well, it doesn't seem like this is that bad here. A couple swing time speed changes here and there, a couple
Yeah.
like minor increases, but it's not where like it's breaking the
As
bank where I'm like, wait, what are we doing with this item
as
here?
as near as I can tell, they've settled on some kind of ratio of increase of item level. So, for example, let's
Yeah.
say this item level is 60. Like the Molten Core gear, mostly it's like 60, 62 item level, somewhere around there. But they're treating it as if it was like 70 item level or 65, or they've settled on some fucking ratio, and they seem
Yeah,
to
like
be
an increase,
adhering to that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's definitely more powerful than in Classic World of Warcraft, but everything seems to be in line, about even, like in line. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, no,
Um,
I get you. Like in line with sod.
yeah, yeah,
Like, you know what I mean? Like for where
yeah,
we're at. Yes.
yeah, and the well, no, what I'm literally trying to say is it's like uh the items are buffed up, but they're all buffed up in accordance with its original item level. You follow
Oh,
me?
okay. To
Right.
to the original item. Okay. Yes, I
Right.
see where you're getting at.
Right. So
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say here is like you a piece of gear would be like a level 60 item in classic WoW. Oh, do you not know how itemization works off the top really fast?
Not the top off my head. No.
Oh, okay,
No.
okay, okay. So I'll do it really fast. So how itemization worked in classic WoW, as near as I can understand, is that if the item level is like 60, this means that it has a certain number of stats that you can apply to that item. Like let's say it has 100 stats worth of value you can apply to that item. And then, of
Mhm.
course, they have their weird little metric system where it's like, well, if you only have one stat and you put that 100 points into it, it'll be like plus 50 strength because it gets reduced if you only have one stat. If you had like two stats on the item, rather than 50 strength, it would be like 35 strength and 35 stamina, for example. And
Damn.
it
Okay.
it
Yeah.
just goes on and on like that. So the more stats that are on an item, like literally the number, like strength, critical strike, stamina,
Yeah.
intellect, all that crap, the you get more out of that item. Like the total stats add up even higher, but there's still this weird mechanic behind it that if it's specialized into three stats, it's going to be total. You get the idea. So
No. Yeah. I see where you're going.
there's
Yeah.
all these weird mechanics around, and that's tied to the item level. An item level 60 will have X amount of stats to it, and depending upon like stat value that you can assign, it's literally like playing Dungeons and Dragons if you want to think of it that way.
No, yeah, this even happened in D2 Resurrected. Before I used to
Oh.
even do I was in D2 Resurrected. They say that the same style of itemization, so
Bro,
I get where you're getting at.
bro,
That's, yeah.
you need to shut the fuck up about that. I've been playing D2 since I was like fucking 13 years old when it first came out, man. Don't even
That
get me started
dude,
on that shit.
that
Do I
that's
play
why
Paladin
I
in D2? You goddamn right I do.
yeah,
Do,
that the Zealot Paladin. Yeah,
you know
dude, I used
you
to play Crusade, and that's what got me into the Paladins. Yeah.
you know the double dream grief Paladin, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
do. Yeah.
I was unironically probably the guy who started that shit.
Wow, that's badass.
Unironically, I didn't start it with the grief. I didn't think about the grief. But what I did do, like probably about 6 months before people started making videos on that crap, what
Mm.
I did was I was doing a double dream paladin, with like 10 of the jewels that are like plus 5%, minus 5%, lightning jewels. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
The the gems.
and I was
Yeah.
PvPing with it, and people just hated my life. They just fucking died. They'd be like off screen, like 2 screens away, just fucking melting. Like, what is this
Yeah.
crap? And then in PvP, it was even worse.
Oh
Yeah,
no,
don't
for
get me
sure.
started on that shit.
No,
Uh,
I feel it.
yeah. So what they're doing in Season of Discovery is they're taking a level 60 item and they're assigning stats to it as if it was a level 70 item. And then they're taking level 70 items and they're assigning it to it as if it was like a level 85. There's some very clear metric that they keep going with it. The only one that seems like off the fucking rails as to what the fuck they put on them are the trinkets. But
Yes,
that
the
also
trinket changes.
makes sense because the trinkets historically were off the fucking rails with the shit that they had on them. Like they're all over the fucking place. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, well, some trinkets are complete hot garbage and other ones are like super powered. Like, what is this shit?
Well, I wonder, is that where they're going to start heading with the trinkets now, since they already put the initial stamp? Is each phase going to be a more stam-based trinket to scale?
Oh,
Like,
if I made a
like
video about this, if Blizzard is smart, and and we can believe at this point they kind of are. But
mm,
if they're smart, one of the best ways for them to balance PvP, specifically, is to make it the player's fault for not wearing the right gear and make it painfully obvious, right?
yeah,
And what I mean by that is, oh, are you getting blown up in PvP? Are you wearing stamina trinkets that are literally going to increase your HP by like 15 fucking percent? Oh, you're not? Okay, you're the moron. And
yeah,
so you're gonna get these nice PvP scenarios where you're gonna have glass cannon with burst trinkets versus glass cannon with burst trinkets, and that's gonna play out like basically phase 3 or phase 2 of Season of Discovery. Then you're going to
mm,
have people who are actually taking the durability trinkets, and they might smash into each other, and that'll probably look more like classic WoW. And then you'll have like the burst trinkets versus the durability trinkets, and they should cancel each other out, if that
yeah.
makes any sense. I've already done the math on it, and very clearly they're canceling each other out. And I'm like, okay, all right, I see where we're going with this. And suddenly it makes perfect sense why they had to give Paladins a gap closer, because they seem to
No, yeah.
be opening up the trinkets for durability options to help with the PvP thing. Because it definitely doesn't matter with PvE, if that makes any sense.
No, yeah, yeah.
The tank,
In PvE,
yeah,
I wouldn't see the point really.
yeah, the
But
tanks,
PvP is
yeah.
a whole other world.
Yeah, because the DPS trinkets are like, what the fuck is this shit? I'm gonna take a DPS. Oh, my bad. DPS classes, they're gonna be like, I'm taking DPS trinkets. This is fucking stupid.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
tank
exactly.
paladins are like, okay, well, it's got fire resist. That's all I really care about. The stamina is just gravy.
Mm,
And then the healers are like, what the fuck is this worthless nonsense? Well, I guess it has fire resist, so that's kind of cool. Then in PvP,
exactly.
you're like, thank God. Well, something I've
No,
wanted
yeah.
for the last 10 years.
No,
Hallelujah.
and I think that goes exactly. And I think that goes back to like your point with saying like Blizzard actually thought this one out in particular really good, because it kind of, in a way, it's not saying like it's like the perfect scenario for every situation, whether it's like PvE for specific classes, right? Like
Yeah.
you were going over, but I think it's the most equaled out solution
Yeah.
for most of the areas in PvE and PvP at the current moment for the next phase.
Yeah, I agree. But a lot of people are stupid. So
That is true.
I'm still looking forward to making those videos about Ret Paladins with, sub 5k HP, and they just don't take Sacred Shield because they want Art of War for PvP, and they're pressing W, and they're wondering why they're exploding. And I'm gonna be like, all right, well, let me tell you why you're exploding.
No, exactly. I mean, honestly, even like just like the fact that it's just playing more sustain and playing the long game in certain scenarios is just a more bang for your buck as a paladin than just trying to reenact your PvE high damage
Yeah,
fantasy. You know what I mean? Like
I always
it's not gonna work.
I always feel like I'm trying to force a square peg through a round hole when I'm trying to solve if I'm trying to solve the problem by increasing my DPS, that almost never
Yeah,
works. And I know
exactly.
why it doesn't work. It's because whether I'm naked, like literally, if I'm a naked paladin with a two-handed weapon, I'm doing 80% of my DPS already. Like
Yeah.
all my gear does is it gives me like a 25% DPS increase. That's all she really does for you. So if you need a 10% DPS increase, then it makes complete sense to go that way. But if you need like more than 10%, you're better off going more of a durability route. It's very varied. But the PvP trinkets are the defensive trinkets are really nice because bro, they have the stamina of like a chest piece. Like what the
Yeah.
fuck? Okay, so that's
Yeah.
like okay. Think of it this way. What is a really insane? Um. Okay, yeah. Like let's talk wailing berserkers here for a second. Okay.
That was in my mind literally right when you
Yeah,
said
yeah, yeah. So
yeah.
if you give
Yeah.
me like a 3-piece set bonus or like a 2-piece set bonus that's like DPS out its ass and it's absolutely fucking amazing, but it's low stamina gear, I can compensate for that with just putting on this trinket over here. Like easy peasy lemon squeezy. The inverse, of course, works as well.
Exactly.
You put on a hand of justice, but then you take more stamina heavy gear on the other side. Where you start getting into trouble, of course, is when you start going all out, when you completely ignore your durability as a paladin. Have you tried PvPing without durability considerations yet?
No, well, I
Uh,
remember even like early phase three,
yeah,
like
yeah.
when I wasn't doing like I was being like, because there was times where like I was like, all right, let me test this out. I want to try see how like
Yeah,
PvE
I
fares
want to see
out.
how bad
But
it is.
but
Palatine says it's a
but I
bad idea. Let
get
me test it. Yeah, okay,
no,
fine.
exactly. But I get absolutely nuked because like there's just not enough sustain. Even with the natural, what is it in
Thirty
BGs? Is in
percent,
like
yeah.
oh, it's
30%,
30%, right?
yeah,
Increase, yeah.
yeah,
So, but even that, even besides just buffs from other classes, and
yeah.
I guess your own consumables if you really want to sweat that hard, but it's like you're still getting nuked if you're not stacking the high stam gear. And that's why for me, I did a mix of like my gear set in PvP when I was doing phase three. I think it's a mix of the lamellars
Hmm.
set with the other ret set. So I do
Yeah,
like a hybrid
yeah,
of
and you get up to like 4K HP or somewhere around there, just
yeah,
standing still,
that's how
looking
I
pretty.
exactly.
And you
That
can
I play
fucking
it like
feel
that.
it. You
Yeah.
walk out there, you're like, oh, this is comfy. Oh, I
No,
like this.
exactly.
You're
Like
like,
you're
oh, I'm
entering the battlefield
alive.
with
Like,
like a shit ton of health and it feels good. And like you're saying, like it's only gonna get to the point where like down the line where we get so much more
mm-hmm.
health where paladins at all like concepts of Shokunin and all the way down to
Yeah,
Prot
yeah,
and
yeah,
Ret, we're gonna just get to that point where it's like we have so much health, come at me, bro.
yeah, yeah.
Like let's do it. You know what I
It's
mean?
the best way to describe the difference between having enough HP and not having enough HP is comfy. When you do not have
Yeah.
enough HP, you're sweating bullets because when I was fighting the druid, I did not have enough HP, and so what was happening was if he got good RNG, I just exploded. But
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
have enough HP, it doesn't matter if they get good RNG or not. You're still going to be alive, and you're still going to be healing, and you're just going to be like, okay, well, now what? And
Oh
usually
yeah,
now
exactly.
what comes in the form of eye for an eye and reckoning and me just like, divine steeding over there and introducing you to the afterlife. Like that's how it's supposed to be as a paladin. But if you've ever tried to PvP and you did not have enough HP, life sucks. You do not feel comfortable at all. Even when I was fighting the shaman, I didn't feel very comfortable until I realized because the first time I fought him, I got my ass kicked, and I was not feeling comfortable. And the second time, I had to use bubble just to get like judgment of wisdom on him. So I
Yeah.
was like, oh, this is a
Yeah.
great start. But after that, he couldn't fucking do shit. And he's like, oh, you just have infinite mana and you're not gonna fucking die. Okay, this sucks. Comfy.
No, yeah,
You
exactly.
feel comfy. And that's
Yeah,
that's where
no.
the chess game starts coming in. That's when your big brain starts being able to be used because that's when the fights start going longer and then yada yada yada.
No,
Um,
100%, 100%. Yeah.
do you plan on PvPing as a deep ret paladin? You go deep ret, right?
So normally I do deep ret and I like ret reckoning. I was playing a lot with
Oh yeah,
you know
that's right. You wanted to do Holy Reckoning. I remember that.
I want to do Holy Reckoning too because I was playing a lot of Steven Bonas. He does like a lot of Paladin content as well, and like he
Oh,
does like just like he likes to PvP a lot. And me and
cool.
him were like fucking around with a lot of things, and he was just like explaining to me a couple of different things that he likes running, and I was like, oh, I like running this. And yeah, I mean honestly, it's all gonna depend on how it plays out, but I do see myself wanting to do more Reckoning more than anything come this phase. But we'll see
Yeah,
what happens if Shotgun is really cool.
yeah.
I
Well,
might try that out.
Heal Reckoning is just a modified Holy Reckoning, so feel free to test that out.
No, yeah, definitely, dude. I mean, I'm really just eager to get in there and just start PvPing. Like, I'm already at this point. I feel like we've done so much on the PTR. We're like, okay, we got everything we needed to know. Like, we kind of understand where we're gonna be at. Let's
Um,
just get in there and start
yeah.
this. Start rolling it out.
What I thought was interesting about the PTR is hopefully you agree with me when I say this, but they buffed the shit out of paladins on the PTR. Holy fuck.
Oh no, I think so. 100%.
Yeah.
I'm at the point where like I'm like, yo, like I
Yeah,
think we're
like
comfortable. Let us rock. Let us go.
yeah,
Simple as that.
it was weird. It's like, shamans are the hero class, blah, 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 blah. And I'm sitting over here and I'm like, they gave me exorcism for free. They gave me seal of martyrdom for free. They gave me a bunch of new
Yeah,
runes. Like the malleable
yeah.
protector rune. Have you seen the difference between using that and not using
Oh
that?
no, yeah, a hundred
It's
percent,
like,
100%.
what? Do
Even
you.
during test work logs, it's a major difference.
Yeah, well, what's even weirder about it is I don't know why people would even remote. Okay, listen. Um, Sheath of Light. Okay, let's say you get 200 spell power from Sheath of Light as a ret paladin in PvP. Okay, or as in unless literally you're not a holy shock paladin, so all you got to your name is like exorcism, right? Like that's
Of
your
course.
spell
Yeah.
power ability. It
Yeah.
increases your DPS, the exorcism DPS, by 7.5%. That's what
Mm,
that rune is worth. It's plus 7.5% DPS.
yeah.
Meanwhile, Malleable Protector is like, oh yeah, I'm like another bubble on a 3 minute cooldown. And I'm like, what? I'm like, oh, okay.
Exactly.
I'm
And with AP now, like what the fuck?
yeah. And
It's nice. I'll tell you that much. They had to make an answer because PTR week 1, Holy Shield was just busted. It was like wasn't it like 40% of the damage during week 1
I
PTR?
didn't even bother testing it, but people were telling me it was like bitch slapping people 6 hours from Sunday. I was like, oh, okay.
It was insane. And then they just like people like I mean paladins obviously like you give them candy, they're gonna be like, wow, give
Yeah.
me more. But they took it away, but then they're like, all right, well we'll give the answer because we understand that the paladin class is on the balance of either spellblade or attack power, right? And it's
Yeah.
like, what do we do here? So we'll give you the AP on the malleable, and now deep prods are just they're happy, they're content, and I
I'm
think we're in a content spot.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. Paladin. Okay, so based on how the scaling is going to happen in the near future, right? Um, PVE, I'm pretty sure we're in a good spot. PvP wise, we're going to start outscaling pretty much everything in its dog, and it's going to start becoming pretty painfully obvious. The reason for this is because, again, the sheer act of you going into Molten Core and getting Molten Core gear is like plus 50% HP and like plus 33% two-handed weapon DPS.
Yeah.
That's how paladins scale in PvP off of both their durability and just offense. And they're the only class in the game that technically does that, right? And that's if you brought Eye to the Reckoning or Eye to the Eye to the party. And like I said, that there is no Paladin PvP spec that does not have Reckoning or Eye for an Eye currently. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
A deep red, Holy Reckoning, everybody has it. Even Shock Eye is like, nope, nope, nope. Go take that.
Well,
You
eye
fucking
for
need
an
it.
eye is such a must in SOD. Like even more than ever, and in my opinion, than it was more than classic. Like eye for an eye right now is a massive deal breaker in
It's a
PvP.
huge
Like
DPS increase. It's
it's
monstrous.
amazing. It's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah. It's like we
Yeah.
were having that conversation earlier. Like if a mage hits me and they charge that up, I'm like, all right, well, go ahead.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens to your HP. Like,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's
yeah.
a deal breaker. And then they're like, what's going on? I need to throw a chronostatic preservation. Oh my god, and then they get rebuked and then they get fucked. So
Oh yeah, oh yeah. That was the other thing I was thinking about. I was gonna make a shaman paladin versus shaman PvP guide, and I didn't realize how good rebuke is. Like
oh my god,
literally,
I love it.
like because I've been basically thinking that like Aura Mastery or Avenger Shield is absolutely amazing, and then I started looking at rebuke and doing the math, and I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, I can use rebuke 4 times in a minute. I can only use like the Aura Mastery is on like a 1 minute cooldown, or is it a 2 minute cooldown? I forget.
2 minute cooldown armor mastery and then 30-second Avenger shield.
Yeah, and my brain's like, but if I tell them to shut up for 3 seconds, that's 3 seconds of them not DPSing me, so that's basically a fucking heal. On top of that, I can it's not on it doesn't cause a GCD, so I can go for a holy light, right?
Yeah,
Okay, so if a shaman is casting chain lightning, I can literally tell him to shut the fuck up and holy light myself. Is that correct?
exactly. Yeah.
All right, well then it's objectively superior to any other option there, period, end of story. The only time you wouldn't want it is if you're fighting enemy melee class, and if you're a
Yeah.
Reckoning Paladin with the new Reckoning rune, bring it on.
No, yeah, exactly.
Oh,
And
you're
that's
gonna,
why
yeah, bring it on.
no, I mean, well, you're basically welcoming the fight. I think that's why rebuke adds such like a strong counter in PvP right now because it's something we've never had before as paladins and
Yeah.
original. So like now we have that, and it's more of a thing where like if you turn somebody's like kit offline for a second, you also got to think about the player's perspective too from like the skill based side, right? They're like, holy shit, what the fuck do I do? He just turned off something I needed to do, and he's gonna do something to me. Do I run away? Do I go for a heal? What do I do? Like, and you have to think about the players panic because they're like, when you turn somebody's like thing offline, they're like, fuck, like,
I
oh
mean, shit,
shit, like,
I
what
panic
do
when
I
my
do in this
shit gets turned
situation?
offline. Yeah,
No, of
Jesus.
course, anybody. So like, if your thing goes offline, you're like, all right, I have to think of something else. Should I freedom in this scenario? Should I bubble in this scenario? Do I really want to, risk the forbearance? And then how am I going to play that off? Should I kite? Should I, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the best thing I love about PvP. And I know Sod, like I said, at the end of the day, it's not the best, it's not the perfect, thing ever. Season Discovery has its issues, but damn, is it good in a way where it's like there's so much things to talk about, and the theory crafting is endless.
Yeah.
When it comes to especially PvP and PvE.
Right. Well, with rebuke, because I think about it like in I literally go through the casters and I'm like, okay, where is rebuke bad versus where is it good? And
Yeah.
against elemental shamans, it's like, well, their lava burst is on like an 8 second cooldown or some shit like that. And if you tell their nature spells to shut the fuck up, they're literally standing there with their dick in their hand for an extended period of time. Literally the 3 seconds. They're like, I do nothing, like blah.
Exactly, and
They
and
they
this
can't.
happens to mages too on Chrono. Like
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
hit them when they're trying to go for a heal, they're
Yeah,
fucked. It's over.
it gets worse. I don't know if you watched my Paladin versus Mage guide, but you're supposed to be using exorcism and stuff to cause spell pushback. And even
Mhm.
without Divine Shield, you can literally cover the distance to them because if they're trying to sheep you, right?
Yeah,
Like let's say you have eye for an eye, they put up their bubble shield, they burst on you, it doesn't work, but their bubble shield has taken significant amount of damage. Your exorcism will cut through their shield and cause 1 second of spell pushback on their sheep, which is enough time for you to get into melee range with them. Now, as a Reckoning Paladin, that means they die. But as a non-Reckoning Paladin, that means you just run up to them while they're trying to cast Sheep on you and you rebuke them, and then they can't even blink away from you for 3 seconds because it's an arcane spell. So they just kind of stand
yeah.
there with their dick in their hand and go, "Oh, fuck you," while you're just chopping them up for a hot second.
No, yeah,
On top
exactly.
of that, you're probably Repent or Shock Eye or some stupid shit like that, so it's going to get even worse.
Yeah.
When
No, yeah,
I was fighting the
definitely.
druid, I was using Avenger's Shield, which is nice. But it would equally have been as good if I got up on top of him and I told him to shut the fuck up for 3 seconds on his arcane spells. What the hell is he gonna do? I can heal myself. He might be able to get some distance, but more importantly, I could just go full DPS on him. So there's almost no scenario where it's bad versus just about any caster. The only downside to Rebuke is that, again, she's not very useful against melee classes. But then I have to ask
Yeah.
myself, what fucking paladin is not happy with a class being in melee with it? And the answer to
No, of course
that
not.
is literally like maybe Deep Ret. But there's nothing stopping a Deep Ret from going, okay, time out, shut the fuck up, repent. Yes.
Yeah,
Give
heal
me.
back into it.
I'm gonna run away for a hot second. I'm gonna swap out my gear because literally swapping runes. I'm gonna get out of
Mhm.
this rebuke, and we'll do this again. Just give me a moment here. I'm not wearing the right runes. You know what I mean? So it'll literally
Yeah.
just cost you repent to get into the correct rune, assuming you even need it in the first place. Although I don't know what the correct rune is there for you. I mean, like, what the fuck are you gonna like? What do you want? Do you like?
Mm,
Oh, I want aura mastery versus a rogue. I'm like, why
nah,
not,
nah.
man?
Yeah, there's no point. At that point, like I'd rather just be in the fight with the rogue, maybe get the heal off,
Yeah, yeah.
depending on what they're gonna do, and then also see like what cooldowns that they blew through. You know what I mean? Like
Oh
during
yeah,
our fight
yeah,
initially.
yeah,
So
yeah.
like it's all mind games at that point. But I get what you're saying. Like rebuke. Just honestly, I think especially in this phase, come PvP, I think it's gonna be one of the more
It's
stronger options for a paladin to use.
it's it's because they gave us exorcism for free. That was
I mean,
always
yeah,
the
yeah.
problem before. Is like, man, I really want to take these other fucking runes, but god damn, I need exorcism. And now they just gave it to you for
We're
free, and
so
you're like, all
reliant.
right, now,
No, I know.
like
Yeah.
now who is the I want to make like a Cinderella reference, like, now who's the fairest of them all, you know what I mean? Because
No, yeah,
there's
yeah, yeah.
so that's a Snow White reference, my bad.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
there's so many good options on the legs. You're like, who's the fairest of them all? And at the end of the day, I think it's fucking Rebuke. Because again,
No, yeah.
Avenger's Shield is amazing, but man, oh man, if I can tell someone to shut the fuck up for 3 seconds, in Season of Discovery, that is basically a holy light in and of itself, right?
Yeah.
If I do nothing else with the rune but tell you, nope, time out, shut the hell up. But it's even more than that if you think about it, because you're not shutting them up for 3 seconds. You're shutting them up closer for like 5 seconds, because they've been casting that spell, and right before they're about to finish it, you're like, nope, 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 nope. 3 seconds of school lock, enjoy, your good sir. Then they have to cast it again. It also has pushback potential. You can work from that perspective. If they let us have 2 seals, you can work in some justice stuns. You get where we're going with this,
Oh
right?
yeah. Dude, oh my God, I cannot wait to do that.
Oh yeah.
That's something I'm looking forward to so
Oh
badly.
yeah.
Like once we at least get it, like there's just so much like to test, and like I
Yeah,
just
yeah,
cannot
yeah.
wait to the highlights of seeing paladins blow people up. It's gonna be funny.
Literally, there's that guy from The Simpsons who's always like, like that guy. That's how I feel every time I tell people to shut up a seal of justice, or I'm like spell pushbacking them and stuff. It's like,
Yeah.
no, no,
Oh
no,
no.
you don't get to cast spells. Fuck you. What game do you think this is? Fuck off.
Yeah, exactly. You're in our world now.
It's like, what is this shit?
No,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
definitely.
It's gonna get really funny when I actually want to be crit by lava burst, so I just don't bother cleansing the flame shocks. I'm like, no, 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 please. I'm trying to kill you right now. Now is not a time to cleanse flame shock.
No, I mean that is true too. But honestly, even like, dude, when we get there, like, we're gonna have like with the fire resist gear. I feel like that's gonna be a big thing. Even like on top of us having fire resistance in general, right? With the aura, I think that's gonna be a big change.
Yeah,
Even like later on,
I
hold
had
out PvP against
I
shamans.
had to make a video about that. So when I make my shaman guide, unironically, here's what you want to do with your gearing, since fire resist has become a lot easier to get. Okay.
Yeah.
You want to go 3 out of 3 improved concentration aura, believe it or not.
Okay.
But you also want to hit your soft cap for fire resistance. Your soft cap being around about 140 fire resist. That's when you'll never see a 0% fire resist ever again. It's 25% or better. Okay. The reason why you want those two in conjunction with each other is because Earth Shock is incredibly oppressive to your healing. Especially if you're fighting like an enhancement shaman who's probably taking Way of Earth, so it's on a separate cooldown, yada yada yada. Earth Shock, it's on a 5-second cooldown at when they put 5 talent points into it. Interrupts your healing and school locks you for 2 seconds. It's literally fucking Mortal Strike if they decide to start using Earth Shock against you. Okay.
Yeah. It's
But
instant too.
yeah, but improved concentration aura is she does two things for you. First off, she gives you 100% pushback immunity, which is really okay. So how do I put this? Specifically, what will kill you when you're trying to fight a good shaman player is the following scenario. Okay, it is they've just earth shocked you. You've come out of your 2-second school lock. Okay, so you have a 3-second window of time in order to get off a nice big fat juicy heal into yourself. Okay.
Yeah.
If you suffer a significant amount of spell pushback in that time, their Earth Shock will be available again, and they'll shut you down again. You follow me on this?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
that's the dangerous scenario because again, your Holy Light can suffer 1 second of spell pushback, yada yada yada. Doesn't happen very often, but it's a potential of happening. Will happen far more often when we're dealing with enhanced shamans or like the shaman I was fighting who's stabbing you quite quickly with like a dagger.
Well, more in melee range, yeah, exactly, than it would from range itself, yeah.
Right. Well, when they Earth Shock you, they have like a 1.5 second GCD, and their dagger's on like a 1.3 second cooldown, so they're gonna poke you. And then if they're going for like a 2-second spell cast while you're going for like a 1.5 second spell cast, this is why it doesn't happen very often because usually they're like chain lightning you or they're earth lightning bolting you or they're lava blasting you or some shit like that. So there's only like one roll of the dice that has a 30% chance to cause spell pushback. But if it does, then they can Earth Shock you again, and that's kind of really, really bad. So
yeah, things get scary at that point.
Yeah. And so that's when you're like, oh fuck, I gotta drink this whipperoot tuber. I need to use a healing potion. I gotta fuck. You start rolling your eyes. But what am I talking about here? Right. So if you go improve concentration aura, all that shit goes out the window. But more importantly, she has a 15% chance to ignore interrupts. And in these long fights, stuff like that matters big time. Believe it or not, because suddenly you can go offensive when you couldn't go offensive anymore. You just trust me. I've played enough Paladin. You'll see the fucking difference, and you'll fall in love with 3 out of 3 Imp Con aura. Before we couldn't get enough fire resist and go Imp Con aura at the same time. Now that we can, I think it's the way forward.
Okay, as like one of the permanent auras in like the longer fights where there's like more durability and like more back and forth, or like would you say like also like is that the case for other caster classes?
Yeah, you use Imp Con aura in any scenario where it's going to be a long fight and you're going to be doing healing in combat when they can possibly shut you down or kick you. So Imp Con aura also works against mages. Right? 15% chance, I think, to resist silence effects. I could be wrong about that. It works great against rogues, believe it or not, because they often rely on a lot of spell pushback with like their constant daggers. And when they kick you, it actually costs them quite a bit of energy. But there's like a 1 in 7 chance it just doesn't work and you get the fat heal off anyways. And they're like, oh, fuck. And next thing you know, you're going offensive rather than defensive. It's good stuff. Warriors also fucking hate improved concentration aura, believe it or not.
Because they have interrupts, right? Because it could 50% against silence and interrupts, I believe.
Yeah. They got pummel. I think it's silence interrupts. You'll have to go look it up. I can't use the internet right now. No, you'll learn to fall in love with it, believe it or not. So, worst case scenario, you're like, Pally time, I disagree with you. I'm just going to click the fire resist aura and good to go. And then you're going to watch. But okay, so here's the other elephant in the room, right? You kind of don't want to nerf lava burst damage too much as a paladin. Because you
want to get crit.
Not just crit, you want your eye for an eye procs. You're going to get crit no matter what, but it's like the question is let's say I could get enough fire resist that it's like a 50% damage reduction all the time. The question starts becoming, do I want that? And the answer kind of is no, because you want eye for an eye to do its thing.
Do its job, yeah.
Yeah, so it is what it is. The other thing to note is Blizzard pushed really hard for the shamans to have lava. Well, the fire enchant, flame tongue, thank fucking God.
Oh, flame tongue.
Yeah, Flame
Yeah.
Tongue on their weapon. Flame Tongue is basically SOR. It has similar mechanics to SOR. She has a massive spell power ratio behind her, so when they poke you with that dagger, it's doing like 200 fire damage, believe it or not.
Hmm.
But it doesn't have any of the crazy mechanics like, faster, better, or anything like that. It's literally just a flat DPS increase regardless of weapon speed. But it's a huge nerf to their overall damage from a fire resist perspective.
Okay, so they're taking a hit.
Yeah, eventually they'll get Eye of the Storm, so you'll have to watch out for Eye of the Storm. But right now, it's not that big of a deal. You know what I mean by Eye of the Storm at all?
Explain
Okay, so
from
there's
shamans.
yeah, there's talents in their talent tree called Eye of the Storm, and when they get crit for the next when they suffer a crit for the next 6 seconds, they have no push. They're pushback immune. They suffer no pushback issues.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you're both playing a pushback game with them, but because all their okay, so the pushback game is weird in Season of Discovery because it depends on like what spell came from where. So any classic WoW spell or TBC spell, I do believe, is still suffering a 1 second spell pushback.
Hmm.
So it goes 1 second and then 0.5 seconds and then just halves itself into oblivion. But some of them are from Wrath, and the Wrath spells, such as Lava Burst, for example, only suffers 0.5 second spell pushback on the first hit, and then it halves from there, and then they're immune to it. Like so, it's doing completely different mechanics. So when your fire resist is shutting down the Lava Burst, what that's forcing the elemental shaman to do is start using the lightning attacks. But the lightning attacks have massive pushback issues because they're classic WoW spells.
Yeah.
This means that they suddenly need to invest the 3 talent points into Eye of the Storm. But even then, it's kind of a hit or miss thing, depending upon like how much critical strike chance you as the paladin have.
Yeah.
But interestingly about their talent tree, those they almost never take Eye of the Storm, unironically, even though they should. And the reason why they
But
don't
yeah, it
do
seems
it,
like more of a PvP ability. Yeah.
right, is number one, it's a PvP ability, and number two, those talent, it's at a point in the talent tree where all those points are premium. You know what I mean?
Mm.
It's one of
Yeah.
those points in the talent tree where if you had 8 talent points to spend right now, you would, but you only got 5, so something has to
Has to go somewhere.
to be lost somewhere, and it's almost always Eye of the Storm. That's why I
Yeah, I'm
say
looking at it now. 100% for 6 seconds.
yeah,
I
but
mean, with no knockback to their
but look
cast. I
at the
mean, that's
shit
pretty
it's opportunity costed against. It's like your burst Nova totems have like no cooldown practically. I forget what the other one is, like elemental destruction or some shit. I don't fucking know.
Yeah, there's a elemental mastery down all the way down the path, and then there's elemental fury. There's elemental devastation as well,
Yeah,
where it's like your offensive spell crits increase your chance to get a critical strike with melee attacks by like 3%, but it goes up higher. You can put 3 points into that.
yeah. But yeah, the talent points are pretty premium at that point. So that's what I mean
Yeah,
by when I say you have to watch out for it because you have the only visual way to tell if they're that type of paladin or that type of shaman or not is if you crit them and the next thing you know they suffer no spell pushback and you're like, oh, this is this scenario. Okay.
yeah.
Other fun facts you may not know: Seal of Righteousness causes ×2 spell pushback.
Oh wow, I didn't actually know that.
Yeah, 1 hit from Seal of Righteousness counts as 2 hits for the purposes of spell pushback. And for proccing your
Oh,
weapons
cool.
and your oils and all that crap, which is the other side effect of it.
Oh, okay. So like you can put like a frost oil,
Yep,
like on like on your
you
weapon.
put frost oil on it. Every auto attack has 2 chances to proc it. If your weapon says proc on hit, like Hand of Rag, Seal of Righteousness will ×2 that. So if you wreck bomb something, you've got exactly 11 with Seal of Righteousness. You have 11 chances to proc oils and enchants and most enchants it also affects, and then things on the weapon, anything associated with your weapon. It's 11.
Wow, that's juicy.
Why is it 11? You might ask. Well, it's because you put in 5 auto attacks, multiply that by 2 is 10, and then your judgment also has a chance to proc that shit.
Okay, so it's 11 from that. Okay, I see
Yeah.
that. That's cool actually.
Yeah, and if you twisted seal a command, it would be 12. Oh wait.
Okay, so
Or
yeah, because
yeah,
is it 12 really?
yeah, because seal a
Wow,
command
holy
also has a
shit.
chance to proc.
Yeah.
But
Damn, that's fucking insane.
seal a command is special. Because unlike Seal of Righteousness can only proc oils, weapon enchants, and weapon effects, like things that are literally attached to your weapon. I'm
Mhm.
talking like when your weapon says chance on hit, blah blah blah. Okay. But Seal of Command will proc any fucking thing in the game. So she will
Yeah.
proc Hand of Justice. She will proc anything anywhere that says she's literally an extra auto attack.
Yeah.
So that's why when we were like, well, when they gave us Seal of Righteousness starts critting, and we're like, all right, pack it in, game over, game over,
No, yeah.
because she's already ×2 procking shit left, right, and center, and it's just like, Jesus, all right, well, just fine, whatever.
I mean, yeah, because I remember even like when I was playing around with Seal of Righteousness and Seal of Martyrdom twisting, it felt better than just doing Seal of Martyrdom and Command when they even announced like, oh, like you can now do Command and Martyrdom can be, twisted with one another pretty much, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever two-way twisting that whatever they were
Yeah,
calling
a
it.
lot of
But
that, is because of the crit.
yeah, but I felt like I was enjoying Righteousness and Martyrdom over Command, even though I like Command a lot and I want to, use it more often than not. But
you
Seal of Righteousness is
you
still
will
better.
okay. So command has some interesting mechanics behind her. Unlike Seal of Martyrdom, she has a spell power ratio. Okay, it's not much, but it's also not insignificant. It used to be really good because that spell power ratio could ×2 crit, but then they allow Seal of Righteousness to ×2 crit, so that's kind of a hit against command.
Yeah,
Command also doesn't proc all anywhere near as much. Yada yada yada. Um, how do I put? Oh, and you can only get one of them in a wreck bomb, which is problematic. Uh,
yeah,
but Seal of Command is she starts scaling like a motherfucker the slower your weapons get, and that's one thing they've been keeping out of Paladin's hands up until recently is a nice slow 3.8 or 4.0 weapon.
yeah. 4.0 is
They've been
crazy.
keeping that out of your hands for a fucking reason. See, Seal of Righteousness, she scales with speed. Command scales with fucking
Slow. Yeah.
yeah, slow. She also has interesting mechanics behind her. So she has that internal cooldown, right?
Mhm.
Which means when you wreck bomb someone, you can only get one a command hit, right?
Out. Yeah. Yeah.
I will have to test it with the new Aegis rune, but here's some Drakova for you. Okay. So what Drakova would do, and he has videos on this, is he would run up to an enemy shaman and he would stand there and stare at them. Okay, unironically. Okay. He would run up to an enemy shaman. He's got a full wreck bomb. He just stands there and he stares at them. And he lets them finish their fucking spell cast into him. And right as they're about to finish their spell cast, he then swings into them. Can you follow me on this?
Yeah. Yeah.
The reason for this is because any additional crits that you suffer will get fed into that wreck bomb. So if
Is
that's
it is it
yeah.
past the 5 counter as well?
Yeah. So if do you remember that one video of when the Blood Moon event first came out? There was like a rogue who got deleted by a one-handed wreck bomb.
Yeah. 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 I
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
do remember that.
yeah. He got hit for like 8 reckoning or attacks instantly. I literally tried to describe what happened in the comment section below. So what's going on there is your weapon has like a 0.3 delay to it when you swing into the enemy before damage gets registered.
Yeah.
But the way reckoning coding works is that it puts it at the front of the list. Okay, so when you swing into an enemy, they might not have taken the wreck bomb yet, but as far as Blizzard is concerned, they already have taken the wreck bomb. If that makes sense. So
So it's like a delay register in a way.
yeah.
Yeah.
Literally, you'll see them blink away and then they'll die. You'll see them ice block and then die, if that makes any sense. As far as
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
game is concerned, that the damage has already been done. It's just like, that you're it's one of those you're already dead moments, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
However, the 0.3-second delay is still going. It's still ticking. And if you get crit within that 0.3-second delay at any point, it will feed an extra attack into the wreck bomb. So that's how you get like 6,
Wow.
7 attacks. So that rogue literally crit him an extra 2 times, and that's why he took a 7 wreck bomb one-hand hit.
With that rogue, did that person like twist from martyrdom into like
No, I have no fucking
command,
idea.
or was it?
I have no
Okay,
idea.
yeah,
But
I would have to look back
I
then.
just looked at the log and I'm like, yeah, he took 7 reckoning hits, and I can
Yeah,
see the crits, and okay, that's how it works. The
but
important
that's kind of nuts. It's past 5 though. I did not know that.
It gets
That's insane.
worse. It gets worse. Those extra reckoning charges fed into that auto attack can also proc seal a command.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that I can see. Holy
Yeah,
shit.
and
That
that's why
wow.
Drakova runs up to you and he stands there and he stares at you for a moment. He's
Yeah.
all like, "Yeah,
I mean,
no,
because you wanted the feeling, because you know you're gonna
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
big
yeah,
nuke that's gonna happen is gonna hit
yeah,
from
yeah,
multiple
yeah,
hits
yeah,"
on top of the
and
command.
and
Shit,
that's
yeah.
and if I was taking killing a shaman seriously in PvP, that's pretty much what I would do. Is I would wear down their mana bar for a while in a fight. Then I'd switch to a two-handed weapon, and I wouldn't even attack them. I would try to charge up a full wreck bomb, and then I would let the flame shock be on me and let them start casting a lava burst and just wait for it. You know what I mean? Like, oh,
Yeah.
we're seal twisting and we're throwing this thing in here because I damn well know that's going to be a crit, and I know eye for an eye is going to go off, and oh baby, and it's at that moment when you want to twist command, because you're gonna get
Right when you get crit, like
yeah,
right on them.
yeah. Disgusting,
Oh
gross,
wow.
beautiful.
Yeah. Actually, I could see it right now. The rec counter going off and them just getting deleted. Yeah.
Yeah. Um Also, a weird thing about I don't know if it's changed or not. Maybe you've noticed this, but I tested it. Um we're not getting wreck charges off of dots that crit us, but eye for an eye still doesn't give a fuck. Have you noticed that at all?
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I think I saw somebody on a forum post saying this as well.
yeah, if you get dotted up and you're getting critted by the dots, you don't get reckoning charges, which is fine because I would be broken as fuck.
Yeah.
But eye for an eye still doesn't give a shit, and it's actually kind of funny. The weird thing about eye for an eye is she also causes spell pushback. If you've never been on the
Wow.
receiving end, yeah.
No,
So
that's dirty.
that's why she fucks over like Mage Burst in particular, like really bad.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't affect spells that instantly do damage at range, like Chain Lightning, right? But the spells that travel slowly and give the caster time to be like, casting another spell, and then that spell hits you and it causes eye for an eye and gives them like a second of pushback, fucking cancer.
No, yeah.
But
It's a nightmare for them.
yeah, but I'm looking at like the warlocks that like dot you up to oblivion. It's critting you all over the place, and then they start trying to cast shadow bolts or some shit, and they're just like, "What the fuck?" Just pushing them back all over the place.
Let me ask you this. What do you think right now going into phase 4, like besides PTR testing? Because like I know we probably have like our classes that were like, okay, this is pretty not, I wouldn't say a tough class to go against a paladin, but it's a good matchup. What would you say after phase 4, once we're like kind of fully bissed out, PvP wise? Is it gonna be a class besides shamans, because we know that,
Mhm.
to look after for? I feel like Boomkin and Shadow Priest are on that list for me. I'm curious about your thoughts.
A lot of classes are literally gear checks for us. Shadow Priest and Warlock are literally gear checks. Do you have
Mhm.
Shadow Resist gear? Do you not have Shadow Resist gear? Oh, you don't have Shadow Resist gear? Get fucked. If you do
Yeah.
have Shadow Resist gear, the matchup will get really trivial really fast, in your favor, as a paladin. The reason for this is because warlocks only heal themselves off of how much damage they do to you, right? And if you're cutting
Correct.
that damage in half, it's a fucking problem for them. Priests need to kill you before they run out of mana. And if you're cutting that damage in half, it's a fucking problem for them. They do have their eyeball that can, put a -75 resist curse on you, but it's on a 3-minute cooldown, and you can always just bubble it off of yourself, even though it's a curse. And then you've got
Yeah.
literally like 3 minutes of time left to wear on their mana bar. So it's like, oh, it's 3 minutes later, and I can finally like lower your resistances again, but they got no fucking mana to make use of it, so that is what it is.
But they can also mana burn us too, right?
Yeah,
Like, I mean,
it doesn't matter because
yeah.
you saw how much mana I was getting back from that shaman, right?
Yeah.
That's only going to get worse when it's 100% proc chance.
Okay. Yeah.
Their purge costs them 240 mana, and your seal of wisdom is 200 mana to seal and 300 mana in total to judge. So how you deal with it is you seal wisdom, you hit them once with the wisdom, and then you judge the wisdom into them. And at any point in time during that, if they decide they want to purge it off of you, mana-wise, it's in your favor. Crusader Strike alone is gonna be an issue. If you've ever watched dueling tournaments, Paladins, classic WoW dueling tournaments, they shit on Shadow Priest specifically because of that. They put on Shadow Resist gear, they engage them in a mana war, and Shadow Priest just kind of die screaming.
Yeah.
Nothing's really changing in Season of Discovery. The reason why they're shitting on us right now in Phase 3 is Shadow Resist gear just does not exist. The other thing about mana burn is she is subject to shadow resistance. Not in the way you would think though. So she's half-ass binary is the best way to describe it. So let's say they mana burn you all the way down to nothing, and you have no shadow resist. You'll notice that you only have like 20% of your HP remaining when they're done burning through your mana bar. When you have shadow resist, what typically happens is it costs them an extra 2 mana burns to get through you, because it just got fully resisted, and you have like 50% of your life left over. Which is a hell of a lot different. Also, those mana burns are like 500 fucking mana, and they have to root themselves in place for like 3 seconds, and it's pushback nightmare stuff. So as long as you're physically beating on them, you're going to get your mana back. It's not even that big of a deal. You are in a mana war, and literally just treat it as such. There's other annoying things you can do. You can do skeleton summoning pets and yada, yada, yada. Boomkins, as you saw in the duel, what was happening was I just didn't have enough HP to consistently survive the Boomkins burst. But if you noticed, if I did survive the burst and I was able to start healing freely after like the first 4 seconds of the burst, he did not have enough DPS to kill me ever. It's because his shit's on cooldown, basically, if you want to think of it that way. Which means I start catching heals, and I healed to full consistently, which means he has to kill me in the burst. His DPS is not His DPS is not greater than my HPS. Literally, if you have an extra 500 HP in those duels, you pretty much have like an 80% win rate, because at that point it's costing. He was killing me within about 4.5 seconds of burst, which is not enough time for my Sacred Shield to pop twice, which is a problem. And it wasn't, it would kill me like mid Holy Light cast, right? But if you have an extra 500 hit points, you're going to make it to your next Sacred Shield. You're going to complete that Holy Light spell cast. And then it's just on like Donkey Kong. So that's not really a problem. What other spellcaster is there? Shaman. Shaman versus Paladin is just going to look like two retards trying to fuck. Because we have infinite mana, they have infinite mana. Honestly, that's just like classic WoW, so I'm fine with it. So what top tier PvP looks like between Shaman and Paladin in classic WoW is this. It's actually kind of hilarious. And it's the same thing with Boomkin. Boomkin / Shaman shows up and tries to burst you, right? They show up out of nowhere and they're like, haha, I'm going to burst on you. They'll spend about 70% of their mana bar trying to kill you. They'll look at the RNG, and if you're still alive or they don't like the RNG they see, they just run away. Because you can't really stop them from running away, historically speaking, right?
Yeah.
And then they basically come back again 5 minutes later when their cooldowns are back, and they try again. And the reason for this is because if they fail to kill you and they stick around and they drop below like 20% mana, you as the Paladin can actually kill them relatively easily, and they fucking know it. So they're just like, I need this much mana to be able to escape with my life, and I have that much mana, so I'm going to run away now. Bye.
Yeah.
I foresee that happening with boomkins and stuff, uh, because they have two RNG wise. There's two ways they can kill you. The first way is they get they burst on you and everything crits, right?
Yeah, just
Um,
big crits.
yeah, that's just a gear check on our part. Do we have enough HP? Do we not have enough HP? Question mark. If you have enough HP, you can push that off the table effectively. It's like, okay, well, now even if everything crits, you can't kill me, so who gives a shit? But the second way they can kill you is those fucking stuns, right? If the
Yeah.
stun RNG comes through, you ain't getting a heal off for a long time there, buddy. So they would need to both crit you decently well, and they would need to get like a back-to-back stuns, like just interrupting your fucking your holy lights and your flash of lights. You're just going to be stuck there, and then you'll
Yeah,
explode.
what kills you.
Right.
Yeah.
So what they're going to do is they're going to decloak off your starboard bow. They're going to try to kill you. They're going to look at the RNG. They're literally testing you for a gear check. They're like, "Yo, homie, are you in the right gear? Do you have enough HP? What's the RNG going to look like?" "Oh, well, you survived all this nonsense. I'm going to run away now. I'll be back in a bit. Bye." That's literally what it's going to look like. Rogues do the
Yeah.
same thing. Druids do the same thing. They basically like, what kind of paladin are you? Do you have reckoning? Like, how hard do you hit? Are you going to play like a moron? I know you've been there before, where they're like testing you
Yeah.
out, trying to see like what they're dealing with. Um, yeah, shamans is going to look like just they. Uh, Literally, they're going to roll up on you, burst on you, see how you handle it, and if they like what they see, they're going to try to kill you. If they don't like what they see, they're just probably going to run away. That's just what it's going to look like.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like those four classes right there, just like the ones we talked about, like those are the only ones like I'm very more curious to fight at the end of this phase, just to keep like seeing, where the scales tip off at. But I'm not too much stressed about like warriors or like hunters. Hunters,
Yeah,
I don't know, like
they
before
still,
Chimera Shot was broken, I don't know, they
yeah,
just don't scare me as much as they want. And even when they gave warriors what that death fuck shit,
yeah.
I
Oh
warriors,
no, we're in melee. Oh, the place
I
I
mean,
want to
yeah, but
be. Thank
yeah,
you.
like
Like, well,
I don't mind. I definitely don't mind. Now, I would say there is like I think one or two prot warriors that fall in the P tier. I was like, oh, they're pretty impressive.
oh
I
yeah, they're
was like, I didn't
terrifying.
expect
Yeah.
that. I was like, wow, prot warriors pretty badass actually.
Uh,
But
you, you have to rage starve warriors. If you're fighting them without a shield, you're usually doing something wrong.
yeah, like I
Um,
think that's like the key to them.
what class was I thinking about really fast here? Was it druid? Was it rogue? I can't remember. Honestly, in the future, going sword and once we get a good one-handed weapon, sword and board versus rogue might just be super oppressive, reckoning wise versus them.
Oh yeah,
Believe it or
honestly,
not.
I mean, I used to love doing that when I used to play warrior, just sword and board against a rogue as a warrior. I loved it. I was
Yeah.
like,
Oh yeah.
dude, this is
Oh,
great.
all right. You were
This
talking
is
about
so
hunter.
great.
Well,
Hunters, yeah,
the big change fighting hunters is you probably started using sacred shield. Honestly,
yeah, yeah.
if you're trying to kill a hunter with art of war, man, you're in for a rough fucking time. Holy shit. Because they will actually, you'll feel that shit on your HP bar and your mana bar. But the other issue, and you probably noticed this, is I was telling people for a million years that you need a thick mana bar in Season of Discovery, right?
Mm.
Like if you're out there trying to PvP, Sacred Shield or no Sacred Shield, you need a reasonably thick mana bar. Have you tried PvPing with like a dog shit mana bar before?
No, I've done it in the past, yeah, but like you definitely need to have a good amount of mana because you could run out of it fast, especially if you're doing shit like twisting and stuff.
Oh yeah,
Where some
oh
cases
yeah,
are not, it might not be worth it depending on the scenario of the fight. And then also it differentiates because if it's not a 1v1 and then you're more of a 2v2, 3v3 scenario, then you got to treat it a little bit differently, almost like arenas, where it's like I can't blow through fucking just twisting. I got to really think this one out and how I'm gonna play and what classes are on the field.
yeah,
So
yeah.
like there's a lot of things that go into it for sure. But hunters, yeah, I mean, I see what you mean by that. Yeah, Art of War against them, especially with this version of Art of War right now, I don't think that's the play at all. I think honestly Art of War and PvP is not really the play in general.
Do you know what the spell power ratio of Sacred Shield is?
Not off the top of my head, no.
They buffed it up from 41%, the same as a Flash of Light, to 58%.
Oh wow. Holy shit.
Yeah, she's not fucking around right now. So get that plus healing gear.
No, no, for sure. I mean, that's what I was doing too. I remember I was watching you, Rudy, when you were talking about like plus healing, and like I started to fuck around with more plus healing gear myself in the PTR, and yeah, my survivability was definitely more higher. It was much more, especially nice with having the ability to create the gap using flash of lights, getting the person to come to my area, trying to enter my world rather than only needing to stay on top of them and chase them. Because there is those like situations where you have to be on their ass. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
You
Oh yeah.
cannot just stay
Yeah.
back. But as a
Shadow
whole, that
Priest.
is
You just
exactly.
described
But as
Shadow
a
Priest. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But like as a Shocking now that starts to change things.
Yeah.
Where it's like you could be on top of their ass, but boy, they're not going to expect you nuking them from that far. So now I'm very curious to see how like Tar does things. I was going to ask him too, like, or just in general, even you or whoever, just to see like how Shocking in PvP is going to be so crazy because I'm having hopes for that. Very, very much so, because I would love to even try it
I'll
out.
make a video on it, but it's absolutely terrifying mathematically. I don't. It's difficult to describe how terrifying the thing is. Again, I was not playing it very well. If I played it better, I would have done better. But if I just had more HP, it would have been fine as well. So, bro, you don't understand, man. It's fuck. I'll just type it here really fast.
Yeah.
It's literally like you get like fourth. Let's say you jump on somebody for 9 seconds. No, my bad. For 8 seconds. Okay. So you're gonna get like
Mm.
2 holy shocks. You're gonna get 2 judgments because your judgments. You're a shock eye paladin. It's an 8 second judgment, and you get like 2 exorcisms. Like whoop de fucking do. This is how much damage you're doing. 900, 900. That's exorcism. That's judgment, and I do believe SOR doesn't fuck around. She's like 200 DPS for fucking 8 seconds, so she's like 1600. This is you on average. You're doing 6,000, 7,000, about 7,500 damage in
Insane.
8 seconds of jumping on somebody. Now, that will all be minus by 30%. But when you
Yeah.
start talking about eye for an eye chip damage, and maybe you've sent an exorcism their way once or twice, Jesus fucking Christ. There's a reason they call it the shock and awe rune. Let's just put it
Yeah.
that way. I'm just like, all right, well, this is just
So
fucking stupid.
so you said like 8,000 by like 30%. So that like is that like a minus 2,400
Well,
loss?
I can
So
do it. I can do it here really fast.
that's
Let me
like
see.
5,600 damage, pretty much.
I'll just pull up a calculator. So this is about 7,500 holy damage. And
Okay, okay, 7,500
I multiply that by 0.7. You're doing 5,250 HP damage to a target in PvP.
in 8 seconds.
Yes.
And like, oh yeah, that's fucking
And
nuts.
that's no.
That's kind of
Okay.
crazy.
That's on average. Keep in mind that these things can crit. This is the average crit, right? But more importantly, if Holy Shock decides to go Super Saiyan, there's another Holy Shock fed into this equation, because when they
Yeah,
crit, you get to use another one.
you get to
Um,
use another one with the
yeah,
reduced
yeah.
cost, and then yeah, yeah, yeah,
This is assuming that this is like taking the average of, well, they crit, but blah 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 blah.
yeah,
It's absolutely disgusting. It's kind of why it's the elephant in the room right now as far as the PvP gold standard is concerned, because she's basically kind of a better Reckoning Paladin in the grand scheme of things. That being said, Reckoning is still Reckoning, so yeah. But really,
yeah. I mean, reckon just feels cool. Like
yeah.
it just feels good to do in general. Yeah,
Well, Reckoning still has a better. Okay, so how Holy Shock is going to kill you? All right, 100%. This is how Holy Shock. You're going to die to a Holy Shock Paladin. You're going to die to a Holy Shock Paladin in a 6 second stun.
yeah,
Because they're going to play with you long enough to get your PvP trinket. Then they're going to wait the full fucking minute they need to get their Hodge stun back, and then they're going to Hodge stun you and introduce you to the afterlife.
yeah,
Shock and awe, baby. With inside that 6 seconds, you're gonna go, Jesus Christ, what the fuck hit me?
yeah,
A Reckoning Paladin just kind of does that on demand. But keep in mind, an enemy taking 5,250 HP damage is easily survivable by every class in the game. It's specifically Eye for an Eye that is pushing that over the hump, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
because you see what happened to the mages, right? They hit you like
No, of course.
I don't know what it looks like from your perspective, but what it looks like from my perspective when I'm doing eye for an eye with against a mage is I'm running for my life, I'm healing desperately. I finally, survive all their nonsense, and then I turn and I look at them, and they're like half life, and I'm like, "What the fuck happened to you?"
Yeah,
Like,
I mean that's normally the case. I remember I was doing like 1v1 duels in Elwyn with my mage friend, and well I've done it in the PTR as well, but I mean even back then, just like phase 3 early PTR, or sorry, not PTR, early phase 3 shit. I remember like just like him hitting me, and he'd be like, bro, I don't know what's going on, but like I'm running. Why am I running away from you? Like I don't get this.
yes.
Normally he's comfortable, you rely on your ice block, like the typical mage stuff,
Yeah.
and like you're playing off your kit, and it's just, dude, like that's why like, I'm a big fan of it. And I try to convince my one friend too. He's a paladin as well, and he does shotgun and shit. But I tell him like, bro, like eye for an eye is not to be slept on inside.
No, it's
It's
not.
not to be overlooked. If you're PvPing and you're not picking eye for an eye, especially now if you're going like if you want to be deep ret, it's fine. I don't think deep ret will be like the best case scenario paladin in PvP of all scenarios. It'll be good, but it just won't be like the top of the line. But it'll
Yeah.
still be, it'll have its place.
Very good,
But
well-rounded. Yeah.
you gotta go eye for an eye. And then now I do like the baseline, Vindicator into Vindication. That's cool. I'll take that. No problem at all. Against melee especially. But overall, I mean, you gotta get it. If you overlook eye for an eye, you are missing out on a big damage or a good damage chunk of winning a battle and losing a battle, straight up. So
Well, yeah. What it really does is it puts a timer on the enemy's DPS.
yeah,
Because their DPSing you is literally killing them, and basically you're healing yourself, they're DPSing, you're healing yourself, they're DPSing. So you're forcing them to go through something stupid like 2 times your HP bar in order to fucking kill you. If they, how do I put this? If they stop DPSing, they've given up on killing you in this burst. But they have to stop DPSing in order to heal themselves if they want to keep their HP up. So
yeah,
where it really gets deadly for them is when the burst is looking good.
yeah.
They're bursting on, and by a good burst is always a critting burst. Like, let's be clear
Yeah.
here, right?
No,
So
true, yeah.
yeah, when the burst is looking good, they have to make the hard life decision of continuing to pursue this good RNG lay, or stopping and fucking healing themselves. And what ends up happening on our end is we either die as a paladin,
Yeah.
or we survive their burst, and then we turn and we look at them and we realize that they're about to explode, and you just kind of
No,
go over
yeah,
there and murder
exactly.
them. So
No,
that,
it's
yeah.
great. It's great. I love it,
Um,
honestly.
yeah, that's why you never notice eye for an eye if things unless the burst is unless things are desperate is the way I would put it, desperate. So
Yeah.
you always notice it when you're in those moments. You're like, woo, I survived that, fuck yeah. And then you look at him and he's just like, it feels like he was being stupid by not healing himself this entire time, but in reality he was kind of playing it smart. But there's all of a sudden like a 50% chance he's about to die in the next 10 seconds. So
No, yeah, true.
enjoy.
100%. Yeah, I agree. I agree.
But you got to use Seal of Righteousness. Seal of Righteousness has a 50% spell power ratio behind the Judgment, so the Judgment is a huge part of the toolkit. Seal of Righteousness itself does absolute shit tons of damage. I don't think you're using a two-hander with a Holy Shock Paladin, but if you can get away with it, you can. That one weapon that I was talking up in one of my videos is one of the better Holy Shock Paladin weapons, the one with like 84 plus healing, the Lava Dredger. Really good stuff.
Oh, wow. Damn, that's a lot of fucking healing. Holy shit.
It's the fact that it has a shit ton of stamina, a shit ton of intellect. Its DPS is reasonable for a two-hander. It's if you go one hand sword and board, it's like 104 plus healing to give you an idea. So that 86 or whatever it is pretty good. And that's got 15 fucking fire resist on it. I'm like, all right, this is like the poor man's Hand of Rag, like Jesus. But the reason why Hand of Rag is still BIS is because you're using Seal of Righteousness and it has a ×2 proc chance on Hand of Rag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I get you there.
So
No, I mean honestly, what just hand of rag in general, like even with the chance on hit already that it has and the equip effect,
yeah.
it's really good.
I would be shocked and a little offended. This is the last thing before I'll take off. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
I would be shocked and offended if Blizzard made Hand of Rag cost the same amount of materials that it does in Classic World of Warcraft. If it's still 50 Arcanite bars and all that crap, I'd be like, Blizzard, I hate you.
Yeah.
Um, why?
I think it.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people. That's what everyone's saying right now that they're getting all their Arcanite bars ready,
Yep,
and
yep.
like
That's what I'm trying to do.
I'm like, but the thing is, it's like, bro, 50 Arcanite bars, and then you guys are telling us that BWL is coming out in a few weeks after.
Yep.
It's like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
what are you doing? Like, cause
Yeah.
I don't know.
Hand of Rag is something you don't go for 2 months from now. It's something that you build towards more like 5 or 6 months from now.
Yeah.
The reason for it is because you want her not because you need her right now, but because unless they put like a blood drinker or something in the game,
Mhm.
it will be your best two-handed weapon in like for all time, basically. Right
Yeah.
now, she's overkill. She's extreme overkill. But come AQ40, come when people start out getting spell pen on their gear, like that's when she's no longer overkill.
Yeah.
The shitty thing about Hand of Rag is she has very low stats. That's why Lava Dredger is on my radar because she actually has
Mm.
stamina and intellect on her, whereas Rag is like 12 strength and 12 stamina. That's the worst thing about Hand of Rag.
No, yeah, I could see that for sure. I mean, the thing is, it's like for like the slow style playing Paladin, it definitely seems like Hand of Rag is still going to be the viable option you're going to want to go with because it's just overall, even on the Simcast, I think what most gear of like the optimal gear that you could select before you're like I guess super raid ready, you're coming out on like the high 2000s
Mm-hmm.
of overall damage per second, which is pretty good with initial burst. That
Yeah.
could be higher. Initial burst can be much higher than like the high 2000s. You could be looking at maybe somewhere to 3 4000s, very possibly. Then you lower back down to your medium of like the 2000s. But for like the fast style, I think like from what I'm seeing, it seems like people want anywhere closer to 2.0, and you're just gonna have options. You're gonna have options, except especially like the lava weapon you're talking about as well.
Yeah.
For more of the shotgun and style. Like there's gonna be options, and that's the one thing I like right now. At least we have flexibility of
Yeah.
what we can choose and what we want to go with.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I really hope Hand of Rag is not 50 bars, bro. I'll fucking
Um.
be.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Worst case scenario, the ideal method of fighting as a Reckoning Paladin depends on what style of
Yeah.
Reckoning Paladin you are. But it is to use the Lava Dredger at first, and then when mana starts becoming an issue for your enemy, then you go Hand of Rag.
Yeah.
Makes sense, right? Because it's a nice
No, that
thick,
makes
yeah,
sense.
thick stamina, thick mana bar. The plus healing is there for you.
Oh, and it
But
restores your 9 mana per 5.
yep,
That's actually pretty fucking
yep, yep, yep.
solid. What the fuck?
The new Malistar's Defender is not fucking around, man. They
Holy
just
shit.
this is what I mean by they've just upgraded the stuff by a certain metric. Because if you go look at Malistar's Defender, it's the same
Mhm.
everything. It just has like 45 plus healing on it. You're like, all right, I see where we're going here.
Wow. Holy shit.
But
That is
yeah,
actually
it
fucking
also
insane.
has the 9 mana per 5, and that's why Lava Dredger has 9 mana per 5.
No, that's that's pretty juicy actually. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie.
So Lava Dredger will unironically be your best weapon, even if you had a Hand of Rag. Because you'd be fighting for like the first 2 minutes with the Lava Dredger, and then you'd switch over to the Hand of Rag. So
Yeah.
trust me, you're gonna put on that Lava Dredger, and you're gonna feel like a Chad. You'd wish it hit harder, but you're not. You're just gonna love it. You're like, I like the
No,
stamina, I
definitely.
like the intellect, I like the fire resist, I like the spell, like the plus healing. Like Jesus Christ, where's this thing been my entire life?
No, I mean honestly, for its overall like top end, it's not too bad. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, and I genuinely think that it's also more on the safe side too, because that it's in fire resist.
I
Like like you were saying, a poor man's rag, a
yeah,
hand of rag. I
I
mean,
I
not
did
bad.
I did a whole video on it. Even its weapon speed at 3.2, there's certain weapon speeds you want on your weapon as a paladin.
Yeah.
3.2 is one of them. It's 3.2, 3.7, and then you want the slowest fucking thing you can get your hands on.
Possible.
The
Yeah.
the reason for this is that a 3.7 speed weapon can get 2 hits is 7.4 seconds, right?
Hmm.
And if you stun somebody for 6 seconds and then you grenade stun them for 1.5 seconds, that's 7.5 seconds of stun. So it's very easy for a 3.7 speed weapon to get 2 extra hits in that amount of
Yeah.
time. A 3.8 speed weapon can do it, but you have to like wait a second before you, like a quarter of a second before you stun, 6 second stun
Yeah.
them. 3.2 speed weapon can get in 2 extra hits inside of a Hodge very easily. So, for
Mm.
example, you run up, you smack them with your weapon, and then you immediately and then you Hodge them. It takes 0.3 seconds for the damage to register. By the time you see the damage registering, you can already get an extra 2 hits into the target
Mm.
because 2 hits is 3.4 seconds. So it becomes very easy for you to get 2 hits inside of a Hodge stun. So
No, no, that's pretty juicy.
it's one of the more ideal weapon speeds. Kalmandor's Revenge is also a poor man's rag because of that. She's 3.2. She's proc on hit. She's also a really good weapon for Holy Paladins.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm looking at Lava Dredger and I'm super happy about it. I'm like, all right, I'm not too super stressed about getting rag anytime soon because Lava Dredger exists. Thank God. The
No, definitely. I mean, yeah, I feel you.
the other thing that's terrifying that I made a video on was Faithbringer.
Oh yes, the mace.
Yeah. Faithbringer was,
Yeah.
yeah, look at her. She's 3.7. I'm like, whoever
Yeah.
the
They.
fuck is making these weapons is a paladin. They know paladin. Like, what the fuck is this shit?
Yeah, I was looking at that and I was like, man, because when I was doing the video, I was like, damn, show us what it looks like because I was curious, and then I looked at the stats too, and I was like, wow, dude, this got potential right here. You
You
got your
know,
stamina, you got your strength, you got your increased effects up to 44, 1 point crit. Like, I mean, come on, this is fucking nice right here.
yeah.
This is dope.
No, yeah, she's really good. And she's 3.7. That's the first thing that stood out to me was she's the perfect weapon speed for paladin. I'm like, oh, damn, all right. That's one of the things that paladins are actually bitching about Hand of Rag is that they made her 3.8 weapon speed. And we're like, why? Give me
I
3.7.
mean,
That's the best thing about it.
no, yeah, I mean, dude, like all I know is like I'm gonna be souped once I get to that point and get it. Hopefully, it's not as cost efficient as it once was,
Mm.
but I mean, my biggest worry is just how fast BWL is gonna come, and
Um,
the val.
how do I put
I
this?
don't know, like,
No,
you know
time
what I
out.
mean, like
No, time out. There isn't a weapon in BWL that's going to trivialize um, Hand of Rag. Believe it or not, it just doesn't happen. A Blizzard
mm,
would have to fuck up to some shocking degree, or okay, here's the other thing that they do. Um, if they screw up enough by outscaling Hand of Rag, because that's the concern, right?
yeah,
If the new weapons outscale Hand of Rag, they're just going to snap their fingers and buff Hand of Rag, and that would
yeah,
probably be the
then
best option.
yeah.
Yeah,
I would hope so for that be the
yeah,
case because if
totally.
that's the case, then it's like, all right, well, this
Yeah,
is no longer a worry.
ha-
You know what I
ha-
mean? Because if you
yeah.
come down a couple weeks, then it's like, okay,
Hand of Rag is beautiful game design in an MMORPG because she's a legendary weapon that you can get early on that is actually the equivalent of like an AQ40 weapon. She's not even as good as like the end game weapons. She's not as good as a Might of Minithil, right?
yeah,
If you look at like a Dark Edge of Insanity, she's comparable to a Dark Edge of Insanity,
mhm,
basically. Which is great game design because it's not like it's the best weapon in the entire game and you absolutely need it, but at the same time, if you go out of the way to get one, it is you're pretty much set for the rest of the game. In fact, you're so set for the rest of the game, you probably can't even get your hands on a Might of Minithil because they're looking at you funny because like, bitch, don't you have a Hand of Rag? Like, what the fuck are you
yeah,
talking about? But guaranteed that they'll probably just buff Hand of Rag if they start out scaling it for whatever the hell reason. It makes sense to
yeah,
me.
no, exactly,
Because if they over buffed it right now, it would be too powerful. And if they yeah, so it's just good the way it is right now.
no, for sure,
The only thing that even remotely, if it came out in the game, I would start looking at Hand of Rag sideways, as in I would bitch about it, but also be happy. Okay, is
Yeah.
if Blood Drinker was suddenly 100% spell power ratio.
Mm.
So on the private servers, Blood Drinker always had 100% spell power ratio. In classic WoW, she has no spell power ratio behind her. It's literally just a life stealing, two-handed axe life stealing weapon.
Mm.
If that thing has, they put anything like that in the game that has 100% spell power ratio, the next thing you know, it's like, all right, well, Hand of Rag is kind of at this point. So
Obsolete
whatever.
at this point. Yeah.
Still not super obsolete, but yeah.
Just not as viable.
Trust me, the Paladin community will be in an uproar that their Hand of Rags need to be buffed. So don't even worry about that. Even the fucking two-handed resto shamans will be like, "Yo, what the fuck, dude? Like, what the
No,
fuck?
yeah, for sure.
Like, no, you better buff my Hand of Rag because this thing is fucking ridiculous. Are you out of your goddamn?"
No, I
No,
mean,
they'll buff it. They'll buff it. It's not even a
I mean,
question.
especially if it's 50 bars and all these materials and
Oh
having
yeah.
to go in there.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, like, you def got to make it worth its value for such an iconic weapon in the
Oh
game.
yeah, no, there'll be a huge uproar. One thing I did find fucking hilarious when I was looking at the weapons is the pole
Mhm.
arms. There's like I can't remember if it was a pole arm or a hammer, but it has the exact same like. It's like just as good as Hand of Rag for Kitty Cat Druids or some shit like that. Did you see that?
Mm, no, not too aware of that. Let me
Yeah,
check.
just scroll down the two-handers and look at Season of Discovery. Season of Discovery. Eventually, one will be like, yeah, it's like plus 200 attack power or 400 attack power or something stupid like that.
I see a Shadow Strike here. It's a Steel's.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's Vendor Strike. That's right. I remember now.
yeah. So 3.40, 33 agility, 13 stam, 220 life form targeted enemy, steals it, plus 189 attack power and cat bear dire form, and then it has its on use ability as well.
Okay, so 189. Now go look at Rag.
And then Rags over here. Yeah, Rags at like what do you call it? 358. Yeah.
Oh shit.
I mean that's
Is it 189 versus 358?
hmm
Really?
yeah, 189 versus 358. Yeah.
Okay.
358 attack power would handle Rags. So you're getting
Never
100
mind.
something
Never
more.
mind. Rag wins then.
Yeah.
I have
They're
yeah.
definitely going to be going for that, but I already talked to the druids about it. I'm like, listen, I get you want it, but there's no shot. Like, with all due respect, with all due
Yeah,
respect, I
yeah,
said
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, the next
They're
one for sure,
yeah,
but
they're
come on now.
like what are the odds they're not going to get a fucking, hammer sometime in the future or some shit that's just better? Like
I mean,
literally,
don't they get ATS down the line?
well, here's the question, isn't Crowd Pummeler still better for them?
Probably for the haste, but it's just like
Can they
I'm assuming they want this for tanking bears.
can druids take Crowd Pummeler? Maybe not.
Why not?
I
That's
don't
just
know.
they deserve it. I hate the fact that that was our fucking weapon to begin with. I don't even like the fact that we got to share shit with Druid. It's like,
Nah,
come on. Like the only I feel like the only other class that like I can be like, all right, we share it with is Arms Warriors. I'm like, okay, but who's playing Arms?
that's a good
Anyone?
question.
You know what I mean? Like, no, I
Yeah.
don't think anybody really is playing
The
Arms, which is
shamans,
sad.
the shamans are pissed
You
off
know.
too. It's pretty funny. Oh, that's our weapon. What are you doing?
No, and listen. If
I
I have to agree
agree.
with them on anything,
I
if I have to agree with them
agree.
on anything to come to a peaceful,
Yeah,
raise the white flags. Let's come to
yeah, yeah,
peace at this
yeah,
bridge. We
yeah.
both deserve hand of
It's
rag.
it's
Shamans, you get it. Paladins, we
yeah.
get it. But who the fuck are these druids?
To the druids. It's literally just a stat stick. They're like, it has
That's all it
fire
is.
resistance and damage. It's a
Eh,
druid weapon. I'm like, fuck off.
Yeah, and then it's like supposedly it's like all right, they're turning them into like a fire cat. I joke with my friend Ebenhart, he does WoW content, and I'm like, bro, you're literally just gonna be a fire cat. You're not even having. I
No,
don't even
that's
see the
funny.
weapon.
That's
I
funny.
don't
Yeah,
see the
yeah, yeah,
weapon. So
yeah,
like you're
yeah,
mean to
yeah.
tell me, come on now, that's not badass. Like get it out of here. So
I know.
I don't know. At this point, it is what
They
it
might
is.
as well have given it to rogues. I mean, at this point, Jesus Christ. At least
Oh
they're
hell
rogues,
no.
yeah.
They're already getting what
Oh yeah,
Kelsavar? They have access to that.
oh yeah, double Thunder Fury rogues. You ever fought one of those?
Oh
Those are fun.
no, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I'd throw up.
Oh,
I'm good.
oh, that would be even more hilarious. Okay, so if they get access to Rag, why can't the cats use Thunder Fury?
Oh my god.
What about
Please.
warlocks? Can they use Thunder Fury?
No. What's next? Melee hunter.
You want to piss people
Melee
off?
hunter
Yeah,
Thunder Fury.
dual wielding Thunder Furies. Fuck off! Oh my
Oh
god!
my
What are
god.
they
Nah,
gonna
yeah,
do?
I'm good on that,
Oh my
bro.
god! They'll have to increase the drop rate on Thunder Fury, won't they?
Probably. I mean, I hope so. I mean,
Well,
with the
otherwise,
time
there's
frame, I
just
mean, we'll
no
see what
way.
happens.
There's just no way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree, man. I agree.
Yeah. Oh, so yeah. So I'm kind of happy that you're not going to need Hand of Rag. Like you're actually going to be able to fight perfectly fine without a Hand of Rag. Believe it or not.
No, yeah, for sure. It's not like it's at the end of the day,
Mhm.
because like realistically in PvE, you probably would want to go for Lionheart Helm because
Your
if it's not like a massive
mm,
requirement, but it would be really good. You know what I mean?
in Season of Discovery PvP, your ideal two-handed weapon, unironically, is a high damage, like base damage, high statted, stamina intellect plus healing weapon.
Yeah.
Preferably with fire resist. Lava Dredger is all of that except for the increase in damage. If you look at Faithbringer is literally just it's a poor man Grand Marshal's Demolisher.
Yeah.
And Grand Marshal's Demolisher is she has everything except she's spell power rather than plus healing. So
Yeah.
the fact that somebody is aware on Blizzard's end that this is the ideal PvP weapon for the vast for basically Pally time as far as Pally time is concerned,
Yeah.
basically gives me hope for the future that I'm not really gonna need a Hand of Rag in the grand scheme of things.
No, I
Um,
feel you, brother.
yeah, so
Yeah.
if I got my hands on a Grand Marshal's Demolisher that was like, rather than having like the 35 spell power or whatever it is, instead it's got like, 70 plus healing, I'm taking that shit to the bank. I'm like, hell yeah,
No.
I'm taking
Yeah.
this fucking
Hey,
thing over
no.
here. Cause,
Definitely, man. Amen.
yeah, all right. When you
Nah,
watch
man. I'm not.
when you
Yeah.
watch Holy Saxy Boy versus Holy Saxy Boy versus Peo, he's using a Grand Marshal's Demolisher.
Oh, wow.
You'd think he'd use something else, but honestly, you like the spell power. You like it's really the intellect. Intellect is just more valuable than strength at a certain point on your paladin, believe it or not, especially in Season of Discovery.
No, definitely. It makes sense after, so long and so many, especially long drawn out fights for sure. No, I
Well,
get that.
yeah, well, you're sitting there on in your paladin like gear screen, and you're like, I need to hit certain mana levels, or life is gonna suck dick.
Yeah.
But you're looking at all this juicy, beautiful fucking tier set gear and all this crap, and you're like, oh my god, I need to hit like 3-set Wailing Berserkers. I need to do this. I need to do that. It's just such a loss to replace one of these pieces of gear with fucking intellect. And then
Yeah.
someone hands you a Grand Marshal's Demolisher, and you're like, all right, or a Faithbringer,
Game
and you're
changer.
like, okay, like literally,
Yeah.
literally, they hand you a Faithbringer, and you're like, problem solved. Problem
Total game
fucking
changer.
solved.
No,
Look no further. It's the same thing with like plus healing gear. It's like I don't want to because all the plus like I don't want to go sword and board. I want a two-hander with plus healing, especially as a reckoning paladin, right? Because where do you get your charges? Well, 9 times out of 10, it's you're standing still and healing yourself with a two-handed weapon. That's the downside of playing a reckoning paladin is while you're stuck healing yourself, you have to wear a two-handed weapon, which means no plus
Yeah.
healing shield, no plus healing one-hander. You're just stuck there with a two-handed weapon. It sucks dick.
Yeah,
But
your options are limited.
but
Yeah.
if it's a big fucking two-hander with spell power or plus healing or spell power on it, you're happy as a clam. You're like,
No,
hell
of
yeah.
course. Yeah. It's a
Um,
different play style for sure.
It's just weird. It's weird what Paladin does and does not scale well with. You'd think it would be straightforward, and it's like I'm gonna gear like a warrior, and I'm gonna be a Chad, and then you try to play, and you're like, oh, this sucks dick. And then you go watch a Pally-Time video, and he's telling you weird, crazy fucking shit like, oh, by the way, you wear stamina and intellect gear and fucking stack plus healing. And you're like, you're a fucking moron. And then you go try it, and you're like, where has this been all my life?
No,
All
I
right.
get it. No, I mean, there's a reason why a lot of paladins. I mean, well, at least the more smarter paladins, like our bags are mostly full all the time,
Oh,
with
yeah.
just majority of being gear.
Oh, yeah.
So that's something that happens to me too. Like literally most of my bag slots, like yeah, I have my items and stuff, but
Yeah.
it's a majority of just gear swapping, gear
Yeah.
switching
Yep.
for different scenarios. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, honestly, man, yeah, I think honestly, all the topics we discussed, it was really good, and thank you for having me, man.
Yeah. No
Honestly, on
problem.
the it was dope. Like I learned a lot, and I'm looking forward to the future if we ever talk again about more stuff too.
Yeah, totally. Go eat. Go enjoy your hangover. You did well for a hangover, guy. Like, what the fuck, bro?
Well, bro, I started waking up a little bit
Yeah,
after like
with
a
the
couple minutes, and I was like, bro,
paladin
like I
stuff.
just felt like dog shit, and then my mom gave me some like some iced tea, and I'm like, all right, I'm alive now.
Nice. All right, man.
We're going from there.
All right, take it easy.
All right, brothers.
Good talk.
Salutations, man. Catch you, amigo.
Yep. Good luck.